empty hearts and neon lights. They're playing with my mind. Gotta get out of here tonight. Oh, I wanna run off and fly. And I'll tell myself it's fine to be alone, just to find somewhere that finally feels like home. Oh, oh, oh. I hate all this overthinking. Oh, 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 oh. The more I swim, the more I'm sinking. Take me to a world of silver. No more heartbreaks, tears, painkillers. Take me somewhere unfamiliar. Bring me back to where we started out. Get me out of now, to where we started out. Get me out of now, to where we started out. La 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 la, oh, oh. Get me out of broken hearts and starting fights, turning truth to lies. Gotta get up, stop wasting time. Yeah, I wanna run off and fly. And I'll tell myself it's fine to be alone, just to find somewhere that finally feels like home. Oh, oh, oh. I hate all this overthinking. Oh, 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 oh. The more I swim, the more I'm sinking. Take me to a world of silver.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the action of the Tour Championship. Welcome to the first part of the number one semi-final, the battle in between Neil Robertson and Watchalong to try and make their way into the final of the Tour Championship ahead of the battle at Sheffield. You know, both of the players have met each other twice already earlier this season, and on both of those occasions we've seen Watchalong to defeat Neil Robertson quite comfortably. The first meeting was in the Shanghai Masters in the first couple of rounds, and then Robertson did manage to make his way to the semi-final stage of the UK Championship, the first Triple Crown event of the season. At that point, he probably was playing just about as well as Trump, being the second best player so far in the Tour, but on that particular day, Trump was simply unplayable, and Robertson didn't have even half of those answers that he would have taken him to try and set up that match with Mark Selby. So in the end, it was Trump that became the runner-up, was unable to beat Selby at the end, but still managed to have a really good run there and find himself to be having a decent run of finals at the Northern Ireland Champion of Champions, you know, reaching the UK Championship as well, finally winning the, German Masters ahead of Sean Murphy. He's had a couple of semi-final beatings away to John Higgins recently, but of course, after he's managed to break that curse of a decider, losing out 8 of those previously this season, he's now going to be all the way down to trying to come back, being stronger, and ultimately being certainly the player that can try and challenge either Zhao or talk about challenging John Higgins. Take about what a performance that was from Mark Selby. Exactly the same story. If you look at the scoreline after the 8 frames, Higgins was leading 5 frames to 3. And then if you look at the way that the match has ended, Selby was having a little bit of a good run of his own. Well, I say a little bit. He's only managed to win 5 frames on the bounce. And then it was going to be down to Higgins trying to respond. He certainly managed to do that. And in the end, it was still down to the last couple of frames. So it didn't look like he had any sort of response, but that was such a brilliant form from Higgins, being 5-8 down, so many points down, either the 14th frame as well. It looked like Selby was going to be 1 frame away from victory, but in the end it never proved to be the case, and John Higgins marches on towards another semi-final appearance, and not for the first time this season. He's going to be playing against Zhao Xingtong of the Cyclone of the World Championship. He's managed to beat the Cyclone previously at the British Open on his run to making the semi-finals and losing out to Anthony McGill. But of course the tournament and the match that really mattered in between those two was the Players' Championship final, where he was at a great run for Zhao Xingtong on his way to be winning back-to-back ranking events. Of course had a Masters meeting with Zhao Xingtong as well, managed to win that one 6 frames to 5 in the quarterfinals. So Zhao didn't quite manage to take it all the way there, but at the World Grand Prix, on his way to winning the first title of the season, still manages to beat John Higgins in the first round. So the players have met 4 times earlier this season, but of course the story and the headline is going to be all down to the world number 3 and the world number 1. We have now got confirmed seeded as well for the Crucible. Robertson, apart from of course the qualifiers, they're still yet to make their way through, but Robertson is going to be at the same part of the Tour as will be Chris Wakelin, because of course Robertson is going to be coming into that tournament as the 4th seeded player, despite being the 3 in the world rankings, because of Zhao Xingtong jumping ahead of him, being the reigning world champion. So he's going to be in the same side of the draw as Chris Wakelin, barring the qualifiers for either one of them to meet in the first round. And Watchalong himself, as the 2nd seeded player, he's going to be up against the seed number 15 of Si Xiaowei. So it looks like in the second round we could see the 3rd meeting so far this season, after a couple of those already, to be coming in a couple of previous tournaments, and probably the biggest one being the Masters. And it's going to be interesting to see what finally Si Xiaowei can try and deliver there, because he's been the underdog for the Crucible crown for a couple of seasons there, but after missing out to Luca Brissell in that great semi-final, despite having such a comfortable lead, he seems to have a bit of a quiet campaign at the Crucible in 2024, certainly, but in 2025 as well, losing out to Ronnie O'Sullivan in the quarterfinals, despite Ronnie being far from playing his best snooker. And it is now going to be all the way for Robertson to try and challenge Trump, because the interesting thing about Watchalong here so far is that if you look at the way that he's performed at the opening 2 matches, he always seems to give himself a little bit of a handicap to try and work with. You know, he gave a nice little cushion and a buffer away to Mark Cullen, with him having a 4-0 lead after the opening 4 frames, able to come back to 4 frames each. Similar story against, Sean Murphy as well. He was 2-0 down. He was only leading in that match 3 times there before, eventually giving himself a chance to try and make it all the way in the decider, and a fantastic break at the end of it made sure that the world number 1 is going to be very much back to being a Monday elite. And now it's going to be the world number 1, the world number 3, the world number 5, and the world number 4 all competing there. So they're very silent for now. I have a V2 meeting to form. Well, he's an absolute legend for doing it anyway. As I say, you have a little bit of stock invested in Trump, but this is going to be a cracker because Trump needs to respond, but he also needs to make sure that he's going to have that opportunity to make sure that he doesn't allow Robertson to be feeling too comfortable out there, which probably was a bit of a story against Barry Hawkins until pretty much something like 15 or 14 frames where, Hawkins was finally finding a little bit of form. In the end, it wasn't really enough. A couple of flukes along the way, but Barry couldn't make it down to the last 4, and Neil Robertson certainly was able to do that. Now then, Trump about to make his way onto the arena as well. It seems like he's going to be the one breaking off here, as the decision was made. So it is now going to be very much up to Neil Robertson, because Trump has lost the toss, and does look like he will be the one breaking off, although still about to give the instructions away to Ben Williams, the referee. So then, about ready. Team Trump here too. This is going to be an absolute cracker there. As I say, the previous 5 meetings, 3 of those matches have been won by Judd Trump. The only 2 that he hasn't managed to win were the matches at the Champion of Champions and at the German Masters earlier last season. So, of course, really good run that from Robertson, winning those matches 6 frames to 4 and 5 frames to 2. They never seem to meet in the first couple of rounds, apart from it being a great invitational tournament like it was in Shanghai. In China, now that the handshake is up there, the picture was taken, and John Higgins is going to have loads of studying to do. I tell you what, Big John is certainly working overtime, being on the commentary, instead of trying to prepare for his clash with Zhao Xington. Full commitment to the game, and you can only applaud that. But once again, as much as I have got so many of those stocks invested in Zhao Xington, the performance of Higgins, you can sort of understand why he's saying that win against Selby last season in the Tour Championship was one of his biggest, because to try and beat a player like Mark Selby, so consistent, playing so well at the stage of a 14 frame, despite being 8-5 down, it was absolutely breathtaking. And the point that I was going to make, and despite me having so many stocks in Zhao Xington, if Higgins makes it all the way to the final, I'm probably going to be one of the happiest neutral fans out there, because certainly deserves to try and take another crown. And what a story it will be to try and make it 2 times in a row here at the Tour Championship in Manchester Central. For now, after a little bit of a thinking process there from Neil Robertson, he decides to just play the simple shot. Didn't have the black to be lined up at the right corner anyway, because of having one of those reds to be in the way. So going to have a different story for Judd Trump, as he just tries to put one of those reds towards the left side cushion and try and use that green as a cushion and a buffer to separate the cue ball and the red at the top end of the table. He hasn't managed to do that, so Robertson potentially can try and go for this red, although once again it is going to be down to, a bit of a weird shot, but to be fair, clearly controlled and clearly planned the way he has played it. Robertson looked like he was going to be sort of trying to get that red to be heading towards the left middle, and in the end that was the case, but it was always going to be aiming for the lower side of that left middle and just trying to catch the cushion to put that red safe. And despite bringing that cue ball to be in the middle part of the table, because apart from those 2 reds on the left side cushion, which by the way Trump just removed one of them from, you don't really have anything in the open play there from either Judd or Neil. Of course, Neil was certainly in a great mood there, as mentioned on his post-match interview, saying that it was a brilliant goal swing at the end of his win against Barry Hawkins, but he certainly will be up for it. It will mean a lot to him, despite being the only player on the current tour that has managed to win this tournament twice there. A great line of semi-final. Yes, brilliant, yeah. And I just hope that it's going to be something that we anticipated at the UK Championship. You know, Trump has managed to play that match really well, but probably better than he's played against Selby in the final. But it was Robertson that was slightly below his usual standard, which probably denied us from having another thriller of a decider. So then, Robertson is having a look at a potential mistake there about to be exploited from Trump, because Judd clearly was trying to take that red to the right corner, overcut that one by a mile, and still managed to get that cue ball to be heading above the baulk line, which helps. Close this one. Yeah, it certainly should be close in relation to... I feel like you've got the setup for it to be a close encounter, especially if Robertson is able to take a couple of first frames away. Make sure that, you know, the sequence is not going to be broken, with Trump losing out on a couple of those occasions before he's going to be able to come back stronger. So then once again, just having a look towards the left part of the table. So after a close miss by Trump, well, if you could call that a close miss, and we're going to have another one of those made by Neil as well. And yeah, we mentioned 3 of those players to be making it into the semi-finals. So very briefly on Jiao, you know, had such a good run to end the second session against Chris Wakely. Once again, just probably showing that he is going to be the strongest second session player of anyone so far this season. Because, you know, you can't really say that to Ronnie, because he's actually been struggling in those, well, I mean, it's difficult to say if he's been struggling in the second session against Robertson, because, you know, he came into that match 7-2 down and managed to make that one all the way to 7-all. So he certainly wasn't struggling, but didn't manage to get over the line, and the same was in his encounter with Chipchaya. And when it comes to Job, he had a really good second session at the UK against Mark Selby, but it was pretty much down to him doing so much damage of himself to the first session. And now Robertson plays a very aggressive shot, making sure that that green is going to be in the way of a potential dangerous red there that Trump cannot see. And just clearly guiding that red towards the left side cushion, potentially trying to get it on the bounce. And look at that, brilliant cueing once again there by Judd, and making sure that neither one of those reds on the right part of the table is going to be possible. Because on tomorrow, it's going to be Jiao against John Higgins for the semi-final number 2. So I finally managed to sort out the schedule. It's a little bit of a shame the way they've done the first round of the quarterfinals, but they certainly couldn't get this one wrong, because, you know, are we going to have a first fluke of the frame? Well, probably not here, but we probably are about to have the first point scored of the match there, because, you know, Robertson catches the blue unintentionally with the red, nearly flukes it into the middle, but now can Trump see this red? Well, the answer seems to be no, because he's not even looking at the red. The good news for Trump, though, is that it potentially can cover up this red if you're going to be sending the cue ball to go all the way towards the green pocket. But make sure you're going to be able to base the green, and it hasn't managed to do so. It's going to be a bit touch and go, that, because the angle is going to be looking at around 150 degrees there. Not 150, sorry, 110 degrees or something like that towards the right middle, but it's going to be very difficult for Robertson to control the pace of the cue ball, especially with having the black and the pink out of position, the blue nowhere to be seen as well. Probably only makes sense for him to be playing a different approach of a shot here. So yeah, as I say, it's quite nice that they've managed to sort out the schedule in terms of having one of those semi-finals to be taking Friday, then the second one to be taken on a Saturday for both the morning and the evening session out there. Zhao looks on fire. Zhao, you have to play him tight. Say, well, I'll tell you what, which one of those two players doesn't look to be on fire, because such a good finish from Higgins in the end. You know, 8 frames each that he had against Selby and Williams, and still managed to come out very much in a dominant force there in those latest 2 frames. As Trump plays another great safety. So a bit of a slow start to the frame. Completely, you know, not to do anything with either one of those 2 players. Just down to the positioning of the colours. And there's the black or the pink, but no, they don't. And that's exactly why we're still having this safety to continue for at least a couple of more of those shots. Robertson is probably about to try and take the pace away from the cue, or maybe trying to jaw Trump there towards the right middle. Didn't really work out, it would seem. And let's see what Joddy's going to be able to do here, though. Can he try and take the cue ball towards those reds? finish up on the one next to the pink. Of course, could potentially free up the pink to be heading into the left middle to start with. But more realistic approach, probably just trying to find a safety shot. But, I mean, easier said than done, because with him being perfectly onto the jaw of the right middle, you know, the two raids closest to the cue probably are going to be the target area, but you still need to find that perfect kiss point on the cue ball. So that's exactly what Chomp has tried to do. He needed to make sure he didn't get, you know, too many of those reds to be over the pocket. He's done that, and he still managed to get that cue ball to be heading to the right corner. Do you think Ronnie plays Crucible? He should do, but you never know with Ronnie. And it still may be one of those April Fool jokes that actually becomes true there, because he probably has to be playing after the campaign that he had in the World Open in China of Yushan, but at the same time, you know, Ronnie is himself, and just because he had a really good run at one of those tournaments, doesn't mean that he's going to be up for 17 days of Sheffield, but, you know, it seems like it's going to be his main motivation that he's still got left in the world of snooker, so, you know, that's probably something that keeps him still competing in the main draw here, as Robertson finds a brilliant escape, putting that cue so close to the green pocket, trying to use the green himself. That has gone slightly closer towards the top right-hand side of the table. And now Chomp is going to be looking at the potential plant about to be taken into the right side of the table here. So if he's going to be able to give those reds a little bit of a nudge, well, I say a little bit of a nudge, he's tried to play that with 100% of worth of power, and I tell you what, he could not have worked out any better to me, because he managed to get the black to be away from those reds, and well, managed to keep it away from those reds, because he was already positioned quite closely to the left side cushion, about to be positioned for the black now. And I tell you what, this is going to be looking really interesting in terms of the black should be possible into the left corner when it comes back on its own spot, and of course giving that as a chance to Chomp. He's going to be able to try and make sure he clears up the right-hand side of the table as well. So for now, I'm about to take this black into the left corner. Remember, he didn't have the luxury of winning either one of those opening two frames against either Allen or Murphy. And I tell you what, he certainly was taking no chance with that black. That was very close to the front jaw. He got a little bit of it. And despite playing that shot with so much power, the black's still gone in. And I'm not going to say it was intentional, because playing that shot closer to the front jaw allows the cue ball to be closer to the side cushion, which is the opposite of what Chomp would have wanted. You know, he ideally wants to be as close to that red as possible, but he seems to recover really well now. And as I say, that was the red that was keeping the black from not being possible at the right-hand side of the table. Now, that problem is going to be solved here for Chud. And when it comes to those reds, the previous shot that he's played, the introduction of a shot with a plant, certainly gave him so much area to try and work with in terms of points, in terms of reds. And it doesn't seem like he's going to be positioned too badly for colours either. Yes, it's only going to be the black, but what more do you need? You know, right now you're probably going to have only yellow and black to be in a playable position. Maybe the brown to be halfway there. It's going to be way too close to the bulk cushion, but you know, the cheapest colour is not really going to do it for you, but the most expensive one certainly will, with it being alongside those reds. And Chomp for now keeping this break to be on a perfect red and a black sequence. About to take the black for the fourth time. And yeah, when it comes to those reds, he's about to have three more available to him, to say the least. And that goes without saying that. He's going to have one more next to the left and the right middle that he can also take into the right corner. But also, you know, he doesn't probably come across as the player that is going to be the best at the splitting the pack, but still, there's going to be one part of his game that you should never underestimate, just because he's really good at trying to take those reds one by one there, close to the back, make sure that he tries to get as many of those points scored as he can before risking it and taking that cue to go into the zone of nowhere. He's going to be taking another red and a black combination. Who's the ref? The referee is going to be Ben Williams. So, yeah, he's going to be the one trying to make sure that not too many of those delays are going to be caused by, hopefully, no disruptions of the crowd or, you know, any of those foul shots to be repeated. Yeah, it does seem like Chomp lost a little bit of a touch there. he's going to be positioned on the wrong side of that red, which forces him to be going for the yellow, which I mentioned is still going to be on his spot and very much playable into its own pocket. So the maximum attempt, which was never going to happen anyway, is about to be officially ended here. The yellow to be taken into the yellow pocket there. Of course, 43 points now is going to be the advantage for Watchalong, and about to play another red carefully into the right part of the table. So they're lined up for the black. And yeah, he wants to be straight on this one, but probably wants the cue ball to be guided nice and slowly onto the black ball cushion here. Make sure he takes all that pace away from the cue ball and leaves himself to be slightly underneath there, the red. And I think if Trump gets into the rhythm, he could take the session 6-2. He's clearing up for fun just now. Well, for now he is, but listen, I probably would say it's a little bit early on to be saying that. Just because he's managed to take a really easy position. Like, he's done really well with that plan to be taken into the corner, but let's be honest with you, he's done that shot about 10 times in the match of Allen and Murphy, and he seems to have worked out only here first time. He's not even won this frame yet, and I'll tell you what, that could not have been any better of the timing. I just said he hasn't won this frame yet, and after playing the black to go 59 points clear, well, to be fair, he does have the plant, but that's a bit fortunate with the way that he had contact with those four reds. Trying to take the pace away clearly, fancying one of them to go closer to the left middle. But right now, he's about to be having to play this shot towards the left-hand side of that pocket, because they're going to be looking slightly closer at the front jaw there. And also, the factor of the pink to be inevitably touched by the cue ball is going to have to be considered. Oh, that was a bit of a hidden hope there from Trump. He worked out, but only just, because he played that with 100% worth of power again. And when it comes to the cue power, well, there's no one on the snooker tour that hits it better than Watchalong, but he's had 2 of those shots so far in this frame. Neither of them have been pretty, but both of them seem to have been working out perfectly. The reason why I say he wasn't pretty, because the plant of reds barely made it to the left corner, but also how close the cue ball was to be dropped into the right middle. So now, after playing that shot with all the power in the world, he's about to be positioned for the green, to be taken into its own pocket along the side cushion. It's probably going to be getting really deep into the white, just to roll that one across the table and position himself for either one of those 2 reds, to be positioned for the left middle. And yeah, on the first session though, listen, if it's going to be 6-2 in favour of Trump, then brilliant for him, but I'm pretty sure Robertson will have a word or two to say about it. And you feel like just because he's lost a 50-50 of a safety battle doesn't really mean that it's going to happen on every single one of those occasions. You're always going to have a frame like that when one chance, and now it's a frame ball for Judd, about to take an easy red into the middle. He has had 2 of those problem shots there, but apart from that, he's really been in charge of this position really nicely. Now, 67 points clear, 59 of the sable. So about to take the green into its own pocket and make it a break of 70 points, which yesterday probably certainly was the break of the evening session for both Zhao, Chris Wakeland, pretty much having every single one of those frames to be finished with a break of 70 plus, hence why the 6 frames that they needed to be discovering a winner have finished in less than 2 hours worth of playing time. And Trump is going to join the tendency, although he's certainly not going to be making 100 centuries this season. Still going to have a really good run of trying to make another one here at the Tour Championship and try and get that gap closer on the likes of Mark Selby, Murphy, and the leader of the pack so far, Zhao, that is about to rise another place in the rankings after Mark Williams is going to be dropping quite massively there ahead of the Crucible draw. I'm pretty sure he's going to be the world number 6 seeded now and about to play Barry Hawkins in the second round if both of them manage to complete their qualifiers. Trump, as I said, is going to be looking at Xijia Wei as a potential player to be facing in the second round. Robertson will be okay today. It's table 1 setup. He struggled with that table 2. It's a good point. It's a really good point there. But as I say, for now, it's really early on there. And just because Trump has missed that green, it doesn't really mean anything, because clearly he was just trying to buy himself a little bit of the angle to disrupt the pace of the raid. But it's still going to be a nice break there of 87 points which gets Juttrump over the finish line and make sure he's going to be the one taking a 1-0 frame lead against Neil Robertson. The Aussie now can try and respond in the second frame, because coming back with a 2-0 down of a deficit is certainly something that you don't need to be doing against the world number one and one of the real favourites to try and take this tournament all the way there for him. So, let me just catch up with the chat. I don't think it's too early to say that. He's been clearing up for fun in recent matches. I could run away with it if he gets in his rhythm. Yeah, but once again, he didn't really run away in the match against Alan O'Murphy, did he? I mean, he needed 37 frames in 2 of those matches out of 38 possible. So I'm certainly not going to say that he's been absolutely killing it there. You know, he doesn't really have the same excuse as Robertson can, because sometimes it's an excuse worth pointing out there. Table 2 setup is going to be different, so, you know, when you're going to be back at table number 1, he could bring the best out of you. Trump has been playing on table 1 every single time there for him to be the world number 1. Both of these sessions against Allen were at the table number 1. Both of these sessions against Murphy were keeping the likes of Neil Robertson and Zhao Xington on table number 2. So, yeah, as I say, I feel like he can do it, and it's always going to be a possibility on the snooker table that one of the players may be able to run away with it, but, you know, it doesn't mean that they will. If Ronnie plays Crucible, who you will face? Yeah, so let me just run you through those. Ronnie will face John Higgins in the second round. If both of them manage to get past qualifiers, that is going to be confirmed, because after Mark Selby being eliminated yesterday, there is no more change that can happen to the top seeded players of the world number 16. So I've done that before, but certainly don't mind to be doing that again. Let's walk you through the way that the draw is going to be set up. So the rating chat, well, I might as well drop it in the chat there so that you can have a little bit of a look yourself, but I will announce it as well. And, well, to be fair, I can't do that because it's way too many symbols. So, anyway, let's just read through those. And, I don't know why it's got restriction on me in the chat, but anyway, Ronnie's going to be playing against John Higgins in the first round, in the second round of the draw, because Higgins is going to be coming up with the world number 5 of a seeded name, and Ronnie is going to be the world number 12 in that. I suppose that's fair. We shall see what happens anyways. Change to get lower. Yeah. Like, the thing about it is that it can always happen, but I would still expect a little bit of a comeback from Robertson, because it's not like he's been, you know, getting by into the third round as well. He's had that with the first round. Didn't have to play either Barry Hawkins or Chip Chayanu, but in the end managed to win the battle against the Hawkins out there. It was a really close match. Was far from comfortable at the end, but he certainly was able to be the man standing out on top of Barry at the end, despite having so many setbacks in the, especially 16th frame. You know, he's had a fluke, which gave him a chance to try and make it all the way to the end, but still, that was certainly anything but comfortable there for Robertson. And, yeah, so once again on the pairings, as now Robertson is going to be breaking off. So Si Jiahui is going to be playing Juttrump as the world number 1. Then Zhao Xington, as the top seeded, is going to be potentially lined up for an old Chinese derby and an old Chinese legends derby, Ding Zhuhui against Zhao Xington. The battle that a couple of years ago you would have been dreaming about. Right now, it's probably going to be a battle that, you know, Zhao Xington is dreaming about, because he'll certainly be one of the favourites in that encounter. Ding is still yet to discover his form so far in the season, as he now tries to hang on to that world number 16 spot, and he'll certainly need to be doing better than reaching the second round of the Crucible last season, 2 seasons ago I should say, because this is where the ranking points are really going to take into account for the likes of Jack Jones, David Gilbert, Stuart Bingham, and of course the winner of the 2024 World Championship, Karen Wilson. What a matchup at the Crucible, Higgins versus Ronnie. We'll be getting tickets for that, yes. That'll be brilliant. And you will require Ronnie to be playing, Higgins probably to be getting past the qualifier, because you never know at the Crucible, as much as it is going to be no lucky losers, and it's going to be all down to the likes of Bingham, Gilbert, Chipchaya, Zhang Anda, you know, Gary Wilson, and players like that to try and challenge either John Higgins or Ronnie O'Sullivan. For now, no one seems to be touching the form of Juttrump, because he's managed to set up really nice start to this frame. You know, he's played that snooker lines up nicely on Robertson, but I would say that one was a bit of a poor shot from Neil, and he has allowed Judd to be taking control of the frame for now. About to take another raid towards the right corner. Gets that cue ball to be positioned way too close to those reds though. But to be fair, well, I say way too close as if to say it's a bad shot that he's played. He was always going to be playing that with the intention. Because when you've got a raid closer to the right corner, you may as well try and get that cue ball to be played into the main pack of reds so that you have got that cushion to be taken into the right part of the table. But at the same time, you're always going to have a couple more of those reds to try and make into the open space for yourself. Another great red that he's taken, but now it's the first real test that we're going to see from Trump. You know, he's not going to have to try and power this one through, but he needs to cue this blue really well towards the yellow pocket, and he seems to have got too much of the front jaw. Has he? No, he hasn't. Just about rolls that blue in. So, yeah, Kevin will be able to tell us if that was a bit of a bucket shot. I would say it has been a little bit, but I'm certainly going to be wearing a little bit of red-tinted glasses after what I've seen at the World Open. Do you think Ricky Walden will play qualifiers for Crucible? Well, he certainly will play them. Whether he's going to be able to get himself through, I'm pretty sure he's going to be coming into the quarterfinal stage. Of course, you've got 4 stages of the qualifying, and yes, New Clough let it in. Well, we're going to have to wait and see about that one, but I heard you about that, and yeah, Trump has got another red to be taken into the left corner, follows up with a black to be taken into the same part of the pocket. So, I'll tell you what, something that, you know, you could say Robertson didn't really have an opportunity, but he certainly played that shot very poorly, trying to get himself out of a snooker situation and leaving that red to the left middle. Was always going to see Trump taking that one on, whether he was able to make that one into the pocket or not. Well, there's your answer. 23 points later, still stands with a great chance of taking this frame to go the distance for him, and now getting lined up for the reds, about to disappear into the right part of the table as well. And Robertson finds himself facing with 117 points without answer, and there's not real guarantee that that number is going to be slowing down at any point of this frame, because Trump has got 3 more reds after he's about to take the pink into the left middle. And afternoon everyone, Apex, how are you? Is this the first semi-final? It certainly is, and I'm feeling really fine. But I would actually be feeling a little bit better if we've seen a little bit more of Robertson, because as much as out of the 2 of those, it will probably just about edge it out to Trump in terms of who I favour. But still, I would like to see a competitive match out of this. And for now, it just seems like he's certainly doing exactly what Andrew said he would do. You know, being in the league of his own. You know, 37 points later in the second frame, seems like he's going to have all the answers in the world, although, of course, you're always going to be saying that until the first error comes in, and then it's going to be a chance for Robertson to try and respond, but before that point, still going to be very much Joe Trump's match to lose. What score first frame? It was 87 points to 0 in favour of Trump. Got himself in with a good position after a lengthy safety battle, and managed to take it with a single break, unable to put the green into its own pocket, and then trying to bring out the reds off the left side cushion at the same time, so that he was able to make a century. It didn't work out, missed the green, but still a fantastic break of 87 points with all the difficulties with the position that he had. You know, despite him having a couple of those reds to start with, which were really easy, you know, the further he got into the break, there are more of those difficult reds that he had to exploit. For now, he hasn't got to that part in this frame just yet, and finds himself being 43 points clear. Making sure that cue ball is going to be played through the reds and about to be taken for the blue for the second time here. And Trump gets in front, he's hard to chase down. Well, certainly will be the case, but at the same time, you know, it's going to be down to Robertson to try and eliminate those stupid mistakes there. And you can call that anything else, but to me, it was very unapologetic, the way of playing that shot towards the red next to the black, especially trying to get under that red, and probably the only one which could have been left away to Trump. And, you know, you give him a potential chance there of an option, and then he'll be making a break off 44 points and counting out of it. Certainly in this frame, about to take the blue for the second time in a row. So it does seem like he's managed to sort of realise the way that he finds himself in this frame. About to take the last of those reds available to him, probably play for the blue. So he decided to play for the black here, which I feel like he's left himself with a bit too much of the angle to try and work with. Yeah, he's going to have a look at the pink, about to be taken into the left part of the table as well. But on that point, I'm not sure he's going to have enough of the contact point with those reds to try and spread them out across the table. He's done that, and well, he's managed to achieve a decent outcome in terms of getting those reds to be spreading out away from each other, but at the same time, he's probably going to have a very difficult cut to be taking this red. That is the only option for him to try and continue the break right now away into the left corner. So 56 points of the advantage here for Watchalong. So it's not quite going to be as comfortable as making a break of 87 in the previous one. Does the pink still pot? Well, he doesn't now. You know, he's managed to pot it in the previous occasion, but he's about to be taking a really difficult red. And of course, Robertson will be looking forward to his chances of coming back to the table, but you'll have to be looking forward to those chances probably in the third frame there, because that red is going to disappear. The position on the brown and yellow is going to be there as well. And now Trump only needs to be sending that cue down the table for one more time, and then he's going to have a 2-shot of a sequence, so that he is going to be winning the second frame as well, in a very similar style to the one that he's had in the first one. Of course, the 2019 season like that has seen so many of those frames to be won in similar sort of style for Trump, because sometimes you give him a chance, you'll be able to take it into a century break out of nothing, and sometimes you don't even need to be taking him a chance, and then he's going to be able to find a brilliant long shot and still make the most out of this position. So then the black for the frame ball, and it is going to be 69 points of the advantage with 67 points at the table back in the game. Well, the thing about Trump is he has never been out of the frame so far, and he's about to complete the sequence of 157 points and counting here without answer. Another break of 70 plus there by Judd to be adding to the 87 that he had in the first frame. Certainly the best start that we've seen probably of anyone so far this season when it comes to those semi-finals. Because I certainly would have remembered breaks of 80 plus to be coming from the same player twice in those opening 2 frames. And yeah, of course, it doesn't really get any worse than that for Robertson, because, you know, he's been waiting for his chance for 33 minutes now. And it doesn't seem like it's going to get any better in this frame. As look at that for a chomp. I mean, that was brilliant there for Judd, because he had such a tight line for that cue to be taken towards those 2 reds, and he's only managed to catch them absolutely spot on and cannoning them perfectly diagonally across towards the left and the right middle. Takes the first one, I was explaining there, line of a shot that he's taken, and now lines up on the break of 93 points here. Says the Chomp vs Zhao final, will it affect the losing finalist? No, like, it won't. In terms of the Crucible draw, it's not really going to matter in terms of the ranking points. So the lineups are all going to be released, and it's only going to be down to who you play in the qualifiers. I'm very surprised there with Chomp taking the bold colours here of this red. You know, if you would have played for the pink, could have easily made the century after this colour. And now, well, it's not going to be a century here, which is a bit of a weird one there from Judd. Didn't have to be doing that, trying to power his way through the yellow. Didn't work out at all. So still, you know, anyway, it's going to be a fantastic break of 94 points. And he gets himself with a 2-0 cushion against Neil Robertson. I dreamed this final, but I'm pretty sure loads of snooker fans will be dreaming about a final like that. And yeah, just hoping that, you know, if it is to be the case, or it's going to be Neil Robertson against John Higgins, whatever it is, then we're going to see some great snooker to be played. But yeah, we've seen both Robertson and well, to be fair, we've seen each one of those players to be in a final. Robertson only managed to make one final, as far as I'm aware, in Saudi, when he managed to win it against Ronnie O'Sullivan. Apart from that, he's had a semi-final in the Champion of Champions at the UK Championship, and I'm pretty sure he had the semi-final with Murphy at the German Masters as well. So it's now going to be all down to trying to get himself back into the open play there, because for now, you can see on the board, it is 181 points for Watchalong, breaks of 87 and 94 about to be taken. And yeah, certainly the best possible start there that Chump would have been dreaming about yesterday, especially after the way that he had those matches against Murphy and Allen to be started. Different style in relation to the way that both Murphy and Allen have actually tried to work through their performances to be getting themselves lined up with that 2-0 of a cushion. In the end, it hasn't really worked out to be a different story there. Who would say will face in the Crucible? Let's have a look. And I'll let you know in the chat as well. He's going to be playing against Weezer, so he's going to be the 7th seeded player. And then it is going to be down to Weezer to be the world number 10. So let's just give you the biggest lineups there so that you've got all of them. I don't know why it wouldn't allow me to just do it in one single message, but anyway. So then Sejalwe against Trump. Robertson against Wakeland. I already mentioned that one, but I'll give you out anyway. And Higgins against O'Sullivan as probably the best of the battles of the class of 92. And then it's going to be Karen Wilson against Mark Cullen. It's going to be an interesting first couple of rounds there, because even though you feel like Alan has been the player struggling for form there, he's still going to find himself in a bit of a difficult position to try and win those kind of matches against Alan, because especially when it comes to the Crucible, anyone can beat anyone, and it's exactly the case which would have happened beforehand. So there you go, there's your 8 pairings. And so you just need to be adding the qualifiers to be in between them. So this is the potential lineup for the second round. So you've got the, for example, the world number 1, Jotrom, as the 2nd seeded player, because he wasn't the winner of the Crucible last year. And if he's going to be able to beat his qualifier, and Sejalwe beats his qualifier in the first round as well, then we are going to be seeing a Sejalwe against Jotrom of a match. And he works with every single one of those pairings. By the way, a fantastic break-off shot there by Trump, making sure he's going to have Robertson on the ropes from the get-go. And of course, we all remember the way that getting that snooker lines up on Neil has worked out, and played a bit of a bad joke with him at the previous frame. You know, only left 1 red into the middle, but that was enough for Trump to be accelerating with a break of 94 points. And thank you for that. Interesting. Yes, so it's going to be confirmed, because after Selby being eliminated, there's not more changes that you can make because of, you know, Zhao Xingtong makes himself to the top 4. Of course, if Higgins was to be winning the tournament, he's not going to be able to have such a leapfrog on Zhao Xingtong, because Zhao wasn't participating 2 years ago at the Tour Championship. So whatever ranking points he's going to be able to score, he gets himself to be added to that list. So he's going to have more than 1 million now. Of course, he's got 500,000 from the Crucible Crown last season, and then pretty much 500,000 from the 1-year list as well. So then Robertson about to find himself back to the table here, because he's managed to find an escape route out of a snooker, and Trump clearly didn't find anything better to play other than just getting a little bit of a nudge towards those reds from the cue ball. Come on, Neil. Yeah, he needs to try and win this 3rd frame away, otherwise he sets himself up for the disaster. And I'm pretty sure this is exactly the scoreline that he had against Trump in the UK Championship, because I'm pretty sure at one stage Trump was leading by 3 frames to 0 there, and Robertson had to come back with a stronger performance. Now, he was leading at 2-1. To be fair, I mean, Robertson was leading 3-2 there somehow, and he still managed to lose that match 6 frames to 3. So whatever it certainly was a lot of a step up from Trump, and it doesn't look like he'll need that right now. Versus Trump, great if he comes in and then the game top, yes. And yeah, I don't actually know there, because in terms of the way that the draw is going to be positioned in relation to the quarterfinals, I suppose we'll have to wait and see for the actual draw to be done. But something that you don't need to be anticipating is a mistake from Neil Robertson, and unless that yellow is just about going to come to his rescue, seems like it's going to be super close for Trump to be seeing that red over the left corner, and he actually can't see it this time around. So this is going to be very interesting there. To be fair, probably leaves him with a huge area in behind the yellow, or somewhere in between the bowl colours, that he's not going to have that red to be visible to Neil Robertson as well. So it doesn't necessarily force him to be taking a shot like that into the left corner. So far, only Zhao had comfortable commanding win. Higgins had backed Zhao to win the World Championship later this month. This might give Zhao mental advantage over Higgins in the next semi. I don't feel like Zhao Xingtong is going to be the player that needs a mental advantage. He seems like, you know, the match against John Higgins and Zhao Xingtong is probably going to be the biggest I don't care players. Very different, but very similar in terms of pressure. Doesn't seem to be applicable to them at all. Higgins has got the experience. He's got, by far, to me, the best comeback strength of anyone on the tour by a huge mile. And talk about Hendry. Yes, I haven't seen loads of him, but still, I know that he was very much a brilliant front runner, able to come back from those matches, but nowhere near to the extent of Higgins. And then you look at the legends of Selby, Robertson, Trump. You know, if you want to put Wilson and Zhao Xingtong into that equation, Ronnie O'Sullivan, neither of Judd Trump, neither of them are going to be anywhere close to the level of strength that John Higgins shows. Great shot there by Robertson in terms of catching the red with a minimal contact, but he says that he needed to study that the red on the right-hand side of the table is not going to be potable into the right middle. So, of course, Chompy's not going to be taking a second invitation here. If he sees a chance, he'll go for it. But on the other side of that draw, he's going to have Zhao Xingtong, the player that didn't celebrate winning the World Championship because of how unbothered he was and just trying to concentrate on his game, and still managed to defeat the likes of Chris Wakelin that had a brilliant run at the Crucible and on his way to be beating Mark Williams and Ronnie O'Sullivan there. And a fantastic shot once again from Chomp. He seems like he's not going to give the edge away to Neil Robertson at all. And look at how close that was to missing out and touching the paint, but at the same time touching the too much of the back end jaw there of the middle. Seems to have got that red to be heading exactly between those 2 points. And now slightly unfortunate to be positioned straight for the yellow. And so close to the side cushion as well with the white. But able to try and find this shot away with that cue still being so far away from those reds. But, you know, the red that I mentioned was so close to the corner that you had a bit of a difficult job of trying to play for. Now, Chom can get through to this red, but with him taking a hesitation straight away, this is going to be by far the most difficult position of the 3 that he's had so far in the match. And yeah, good luck for making a break of 87 plus out of this situation here, because, you know, even trying to make his way on towards the blue here is going to be difficult, and that's going to have a red over the pocket. You can only imagine what's he going to be when he's going to have to try and develop those difficult reds to be in the open play. For now, what's it going to be with the reds? He needs to try and powerhouse this shot through the cue ball, and he seems like he's just about played this one absolutely spot on. Despite being on the wrong side of a blue, is going to have a huge area to be aiming to the top end of the table because of the brown not being there. And yeah, agree, Higgins has exceptional resilience. We'll see, picking Zhao to win. And yeah, agree with that one. But, you know, I'm going to be backing Higgins all the way, because after that performance against Selby yesterday, I'm never going to be tired of speaking about it. That was absolutely brilliant by Higgins. And, oh, that was certainly not brilliant from Chom, nearly missing up the blue. Wobbled for a good few seconds there before eventually dropping in. But, of course, as I say, not having that brown at the top end of the table or being covered up by the green right now is certainly going to be a great boost to the chances of Chom being lined up with the wrong side of a blue. And still having that ability to be bringing the cue ball down every single time that he needs to. And of course, he's about to be choosing here in between the black and the pink, because the black seems like he's going to be the easier option if it does go past the red, but that if seems like it's going to be very touch and go, which probably leaves you with that. I mean, I don't know about taking the pink on, because to be fair, if you take the pink, it's going to force you with a straight line of a shot there that doesn't really give you a full control of the cue ball in relation to what is he going to be playing after this pink. And it seems like just trying to play that shot through the pink and roll that cue ball further up the table. And it seems to have managed to play this one quite well. Vintage John yesterday, Mark Selby was a tough unlucky, but John deserved the win. That was absolutely brilliant. I mean, that was breathtaking snooker. And I haven't even got anything bad about Selby to say. You know, he just managed to come across against Higgins that had, you know, he had 10% of a chance of winning that 14 frame. By the way, 47 points down, such a difficult position in that 14 frame for him to be 9-5 down. And he somehow managed to win that match 10 frames to 8. Incredible there from John, and certainly going to be the man to beat for Zhao Xingtong in a first to 10 race for the second time this season. Resilience is not the word I'd use, but he's a tough, never giving up old guy. And yeah, I mean, he's a genuine legend of the sport. And he's certainly giving up huge loads of resilience and Great opposition of a player for you to be up against. Of course, horrible opposition player for you to be up against if you have the mindset to try and win the match. But, you know, from the neutral to be enjoying, it doesn't really get any better than that. And another great performance from John Higgins' camp. And meanwhile, Trump finally seems like he was able to position and compose himself to be taking the black into the left corner. And I tell you what, I'm not sure I've seen anything like it since the last 16 match. Sean Murphy against Karen Wilson. Of course, we've seen Chang Min-yu to be doing the same thing over with Sean Murphy, but at least Sean was able to score one of those points in the third frame, despite Chang Min-yu making a 100-plus break in every single one of those frames. Robertson must be feeling, what on earth is he doing here? Because now, even though it seemed like it was going to be such a difficult position for Trump when he started the break, certainly doesn't look like it's now. And he's about to be running away with 37 points of the advantage, 218 points without answer here. And, well, you know, Robertson was speaking about having 2J withdrawals, which has allowed him to be focusing on golf a little bit. He may be doing that in the next couple of days as well, because for now, this seems like Trump has got no sign of slowing down or giving him any mercy. And as I say, when it comes to those reds and colours, seems to have managed to control the way that the game has gone really nicely to him. About to make the third 50-plus break in the opening 3 frames. Come on, Trump. I'll tell you what, it's certainly going to be come on, Robertson, that needs to be shouted. Trump seems to have found the perfect groove for himself. And yeah, the only slight problem for him is that it hasn't been a century break so far. I'm not even going to say that he's going to have any of those issues to be getting over the line in terms of winning the frame here. About to make it 50 points of the advantage with 83 in the open play. So 3 more reds to be taken, which leaves it down to 5 more shots that he needs to play. And neither one of those should be too difficult for him to try and manage his way through. Although once again seems like he's about to have a really nice look towards the black. Because they didn't really have that issue beforehand, which, you know, leaves him with wondering why he's got that issue now, despite the black being respotted. And, of course, wasn't touched since it has been respotted back there. So may just have to try and settle for heading for the pink. Bit of a bad shot that he's played here, though. Needed to get that keyboard running towards the pink, and in the end just stopped it with just a bit of a stun shot there that he's played. So needs to be taking this one carefully, and once again, not even close to be missing it. And lined up nicely for another semi-problematic red to be taken into the left corner, closer to the side cushion. Now 57 points of a lead, so that leaves him with, 2 more reds having to be taken. So down to the last 3 shots, and then the frame win. He's going to be his for the taking once again, looking for another, break of 87 plus points, but probably unlikely to make it here. But his main focus now is surely going to be on trying to win the frame in a single visit to the table and make it 48 minutes since the match has started, and a flawless performance there so far by Judd, not allowing Robertson to be scoring any one of those points up to this stage of a match yet. And once again, it's despite sometimes, he's not cleaning those colours or reds straight into the pocket. It doesn't really matter for him because he's about to be positioned for a frame ball for the 3rd time in 3 frames that he's played. Another break of 60 plus points there, scored by Judd Trump, and then a 3-0 of a cushion is going to be his for the taking. Brilliant there by Judd. 65 points of the advantage, 59 on the table, and now it's going to be all the way to Robertson to try and find some sort of spark there to respond in the 4th frame, because if he's going to be leading, if he's going to be heading towards the second mini session with a 4-0 of a deficit, then he's got absolutely no chance of trying to come back as a favourite into the evening session, whatever it's going to be. Even if it's going to be 4-all in between the 2 players, it's going to have to be very much in favour of Trump for him to be the top seeded player on the tour, on the 2-year list. Of course, Robertson, the reason why Neil only had to play one of those matches, and also the reason why he finds himself being on the left-hand side of the score sheet, because that's usually where the top seeded players go. Same with Higgins and Zhao. Of course, Higgins was coming into this tournament being the highest seeded player than Zhao. It's not longer going to be the case, but another great shot there by Trump. And if he's going to be bothered about trying to take a rest shot, he could actually be lined up with a decent chance of a century break. Once again, trying to take it into 80 plus of his own for the third time in a row. Look at that, almost 300 points scored to nil from Neil Robertson there. Great stuff from Trump, certainly. And another red to be taken. Needs to carefully make his way around the red. And look at that. He could not have just taken that cue ball and placed it anywhere better on the table. 260 points there by Trump. And you can see that stat on the Channel 5 as well. 0 of those to be scored by Neil Robertson himself. So he decided to try and play for that raid along the side cushion first. And yeah, I was about to say he's going to be slightly short in pace, but just about enough there to be giving himself a bit of a chance to try and take this red nicely. Just needs to be carrying that cue ball through the paint well. The wrong side of it, unfortunately, I'm afraid. And he's going to have a really difficult line to try and take that cue ball to be bouncing off the left and then the right side cushion, although nothing is impossible if your name is going to be Jock Trump. And the break of 91 points, the second highest in the match. Only 3 shots away from a century break. And it just cannons that black to be out of position. And as he comes back to be lined up with the cue ball, it's going to be fine there, just about. But Trump should be able to just carefully cut this one towards the left corner. And now needs that cue ball to be given a huge boost. And look at that for a positional shot. Once again, flawless there from Trump. And so far, by far, the best performance of the season. The best 3 frames of the season there that we have seen from the world number 1. And he's certainly doing that at the best possible time ahead of these run at the Crucible. And now a break of 101 points. About to be extended to a total clearance being on the horizon as well. A fantastic century there by Judd. And a little bit of exhibition on the brown as well. Torn up Hapter. Yes, another ton there for Jock Trump. And 108 he's going to be here. And look at that for a position as well. Despite him playing all sorts of exhibition, he's still going to be lined up perfectly on the blue. Not so much on the pink though. But he's clearly paying no attention to be lining up nicely on those colours. And about to maybe fluke the pink. No, he won't. And he was never going to make that one into the right middle with so much of the power. But I tell you what, 294 worth of points in the opening 3 frames. Not too bad, especially with your opponent not scoring any one of those for contrast. It is now the first time that Jock Trump finds himself not being 3-0 down in the recent history of the Tour Champion of the World Snooker Championship this season, because he's had that horrible run against Selby in the final, being 5-0 down. He's had that run against Higgins where despite having a healthy lead, he wasn't able to take it all the way. And then of course, the run against Mark Cullen being 4 frames down. He's only going to be 1 frame from trying to make it roles reverse there and find Robertson to be potentially looking to get back on the golf course for a couple of days before he's going to have to hit that practice room at the Crucible, because now it seems like he's going to be an absolute sitting duck here at the Tour Championship. And at Manchester, it seems like Jock Trump has managed to find the perfect equipment, the perfect setup, and the perfect technique and execution to be working out for him nicely. Robertson needs next badly. Well, you forgot to add probably around 3 frames there, because he needs to be winning a couple of those frames on the board there. I'll tell you that for free. You know, he needed to win the next frame when he was 1-0 down, potentially 2-0 down, but now he needs to be winning a couple, to say the least, because, you know, even if he wins 2 of those away, and Trump goes on to win the 6th frame, it's going to be a 4-2 of a gap, and then you feel like it's still going to be massive advantage for Jock Trump. So, yeah, what Robertson needs to try and do is to go on a little bit of a run himself. He's going to be able to do it if he gets himself the opportunities. So far, those chances haven't been anywhere near him. The worst thing for Robertson is that he can't even put on his CV that he was trying to take those reds and he was missing them. You know, that's going to be something for him to try and achieve in later on in those frames. For now, it seems like he loses these frames as soon as he gets to the safety battle. And then, you know, you get a first chance like that when he looked like the first frame was easy, the second frame was moderate, and then the third one was super difficult. And yet, we've gone from 87 to 94 to now 113. So it's only getting better from Jock Trump. And if he's going to be able to try and keep this one up, it won't be long until we get to a 147 being on the horizon as well. So, yeah, Great performance there by Jutrom. Not so much by Neil Robertson, but he's still got a couple of those frames to try and come back stronger. Although, if he's not going to be able to win them, then this is the time where he'll find himself in the world of trouble. And hit like button, folks, and support to cover it. Yeah, thank you very much there for everyone tuning in. Feel free to be back at the second session, because even if Robertson is going to be losing all sorts of those frames, at least he's going to have a chance to try and come back to this great arena with a fantastic crowd for 2 more frames there, because it is going to be a race to 10. And as we've seen beforehand, unless it's going to be the Crucible session number 3 or it's going to be session number 2 or number 4, I should say, then it is going to be all down to just 8 frames to be played, with no less or no more. So then Trump finds himself to be snookered for once here, and that's still able to find his way down to those reds nicely from the left-hand side. And Robertson is going to be, well, feeling a little bit undone there, but I'm not sure who can he blame. If you need to blame anyone, you can't blame himself, really, because the second frame was a bit poor, but it wasn't quite as poor as, leaving that chance away into the left middle that he was going to be punished with 94 points of a break. You have to give full credit to Trump for doing that. But even less so in the previous frame. That was such a great break there from Trump, and especially in such a difficult position to be able to make a decent century out of it. Then it's going to be all the way down there, as Neil Robertson gives the turn back to Trump. Just carefully trying to play that shot away and make sure that cue ball is going to be lined up still on those reds, as Trump seems like he's going to be taking no chances at all. And he seems like he's got an early flight there booked. Probably someone that hasn't told him that he needs to be turning up for the second session anyway, because he's just gone for a double, which, to be fair, he's played in a nice controlled fashion. Trying to hold that cue ball back for the black anyway, and would have been positioned really horribly on the black. But as you can see, table time 77% only there for Trump. I feel like 23% for Robertson. 15 of those probably going to be in the opening frame there, because it feels like in frames number 2 and 3, he's only played a couple of those shots, and then he was down to a chance to be scoring from Trump. So then just carefully taking those reds towards the right side cushion. Make sure that cue ball is going to be heading towards the lower side of the black ball cushion as well. Now about to give the turn back to Trump here once again. Make sure that he gives it a little bit of a nudge towards those reds and plays that cue ball into the left side. Make sure he avoids the jaws in the middle, which he has done pretty well. And would have liked to be slightly closer towards the yellow in relation to that line of the cue ball, if you look at down the table. Yes, it's exactly what I meant by that. Because Robertson now is going to have a chance to try and play one of those reds closer to the left-hand side of the table. Very thin on the edge. It looked like he played that one with a bit of a miscue, but despite pushing one of those reds close to the right corner, still manages to find himself in a comfortable position after placing that cue ball perfectly well for the ball cushion. So I'm about to take another nice red into the right corner, and it seemed like it was a really nice shot there by Judd, but at the end of it, it was always going to be down to just trying to take that red into the corner. It was very close, but not quite close enough. And for him to be playing that shot with a little bit of power certainly helped to be getting the red away from the dangerous part of the pocket. Now then, what's it going to be for Robertson? It still seems like he's not going to be going for anything aggressive there. And just carefully watching on that red as he goes close to the left corner, but in the end, too close to the black ball cushion and not quite close enough to the pocket for Trump to be taking notice of it. For now, very close once again there from Neil to be getting a snooker lined up in behind the brown, but looks like even though that wasn't quite the case, Trump was trying to make sure he gets that cue ball to be heading towards the red with a contact from the side cushion. And then you can see Robertson clearly hasn't lost his sense of humour, because he's acknowledging the fact that he's going to have his first 4 points of the match. And look at that with a fist bump. Probably the biggest cheer that he's going to get in the Tour Championship so far. The referee has enjoyed it. Trump has enjoyed it as well. And Robertson, of course, clearly showing that he's still going to be lined up with a high spirit. And sometimes you just need to acknowledge the brilliance of Judd Trump. He, as I say, second frame a little bit undone and done himself dirty there, but first and third have been exactly the perfect exemplification of how great one of those players can be. So then attempt number 2 coming up here for Judd. Let's see if it's going to be even more of a delight for Robertson. Seems like it will. Well, it will be. Wow, it's going to be more of a delight, certainly. Trump has played this shot absolutely horribly wrong there, because he's taken a different line, and it seems like he's taken a lot more of the power, which seems like it's correlated with taking a difficult line there. And of course, playing that shot with too much power is always going to mean that he's going to leave a red away to the right corner, basically in the pocket. Neil was not going to have an easier chance like that, and even though it was an absolute sitter, the crowd, of course, are going to be showing their great support to Neil Robertson, because everyone, me included, unless you're going to be a fan of Judd Trump, you want to make sure that this one is going to be taken slightly further than just the domination from the world number 1. And this is going to require a little bit of a response from Robertson's point of view as well. Now then, just carefully looking at the pink about to be taken here into the left middle. He needs to be making sure he gets those shots in, and then he's going to have the chance to be lined up for the red. About to be taken into the corner. That cue just a little bit drifting too much there towards the blue. And he's still going to be positioned for the red, but anything but easy when it comes to having the lineup for the next colour. Taking the red into the corner is going to be a difficult job in itself, but trying to play that cube with so much power towards those reds or the pink, trying to make sure that he gets himself lined up for the black or the pink here, which he's got no chance of playing for the blue. Watch, this is going to be exactly what he's trying to do. Well, in the end, he actually looks like he was trying to play for the blue, but the reason why I said he's got no chance of doing that is because just how much of a difficulty it would have been to try and hammer that red towards the corner, making that red in, and still keeping full control of the cue ball. In the end, the red is going to stay out, and he will be just 7 points scored there from Robertson. So still has got more of those foul points to be given away than the ones that he's managed to score so far. And what's it going to be for Trump here? He's had a little bit of a quiet run in the start of this frame, but he's about to play another fantastic shot there. Not just in relation to potting the red in, which probably wasn't as much of a difficult shot as it could have been, but getting another red to be out of the sort of contact point with the cue ball, getting himself positioned perfectly for the black, about to be taken into the right corner, and now it is going to be 7 points of a deficit there for Judd, about to be overcome in the next 2 shots or so that he's about to play. And for now, it does still seem increasingly likely, which it was always going to be the case there after Robertson was kept quiet for so many frames, for so many minutes there, and had to sit in his chair whilst Trump was getting those practice hours in. At the brilliant feeling of the table number 1 is always going to get better for the player that is actually having the performance like that, and it's only going to get worse from Neil Robertson until the intermission at least. And it's still going to be a bit of a 50-50, because sometimes you're going to be able to find that Trump steps back to the frame number 5 and he's still going to be playing just about as well as he has in the previous 4, or it could be, he misses a couple of those reds, and then Robertson is going to be the one to try and have the run of his own and put that pressure to be slightly closer towards the way of Judd Trump. Now, certainly doesn't seem like that's the way. And another red about to disappear towards the left corner of the table. What a boring match. What a boring comment that is. It's certainly not been boring, because, just because you can see it's a one-sided match, but it's certainly entertaining from Judd Trump's point of view, because, he's done everything that he had to do. He's about to go on another break of 30 plus there, if he gets the red and a black combination in. And just because Robertson is having a bit of a bad spell, didn't really mean that Mark Allen against Judd Trump was a boring match. And, you do need a bit of a spark to try and get yourself to be facing the right way. For now, Robertson needs to be resting on and rely on a mistake from Trump to come to his rescue. One-sided for now, but great game, but absolutely. And, one-sided game doesn't mean that it was poor quality, because, if anything, once again, you talk about the individual performance from Higgins yesterday, but I feel like that was a little bit more impressive because he had the opposition there and he found himself in such a difficult position, being 8 frames to 5 behind. And I remember seeing the odds there. It genuinely, I'm not kidding you, it was something like 1.02 there for Selby to be the winner when he had that 47 points of an advantage in the frame number 14. And yet Higgins was the one to try and overcome that 19 that he had next to his name in terms of the odds, and still being able to get himself through to the semi-final there. And I like I like Robertson. Well, yeah, but you can always respect someone like Judd for bringing so much to the game and being the world number 1 for numerous years as well. And, well, another great shot there that he's played. Fantastic execution of the pack split as well. And about to get himself 3 more reds lined up into the open play. It does seem like Robertson will have to end the first mini session with only scoring 15 points, 8 of those to come from foul points as well. And yes, Selby was playing well, made the victory for John even better. Yes, that was, as I say, individually. I remember Jack Lizowski against Trump in the Northern Ireland Open final. That probably has to go back to the runner-up though. As Trump, as he played a horrible shot here. I mean, I don't know why he was playing to take that cue so far towards the right side anyway. But now, he's got 2 options, and neither one of those is going to be pretty. In either needs to be bridging really awkwardly over a red and taking a thin cut into the middle, or an alternative being that he can try and take the red into the right corner, but that one's going to be along the cushion. I'm not even sure he can see through that red. To be fair, you know, it's one of those shots that you would expect John to make for how well he's been playing, but it's still going to be a great test of him, and it's not going to be able to make it this time. So the break of 54 is still going to be 4 out of 4 there when it comes to breaks of 50 plus, but this time around, it's not going to be the break of 85 plus. And Robertson, if he's got these red lines up into the right middle, he's about to have the last chance of surely make a competitive match out of this in the first mini session. Got a really good contact on the red, and Robertson is in there, although it's going to be anything but easy here for Neil, and I will still leave it down to Trump to be a massive favourite here, because Robertson has got 2.5 reds, I would say, available in the open play after the brown is about to disappear into the green pocket, which I say is about to disappear. The cube was quite far away from the brown as well, but should be able to take it with how little he needs to be doing on the positional play to be getting that run for the red. So then, 34 points the difference. 67 at the table. What's he got? Well, 75 here, sorry, but it doesn't really matter. He needs every single one of those reds to be taken, and you know, he needs to try and have a really good run here. 4 of those reds at least are going to be in a little bit of trouble. You know, I feel like the 4th one can be taken into the corner because of how close it is, but still, along the side rail, it's going to be a bit of a challenge that for Robertson. And when it comes to the remaining those 3, going to be classified as difficult for me. They're going to be the ones that probably need to be taken care of before he can try and have a go at potting either one of those 3. Time to move, Robert. Yes, it's certainly going to be time to move for Robertson here. But the problem is, ideally, when you find yourself in a position like this, you want something easy to be available to you. But it looks like it's going to be anything but easy. Because even the red, which I counted it as the one to be in the open play, seems like he was playing for that red, underrun for it massively, and now he can take the easy red into the green pocket, which of course makes that shot difficult and anything but easy, or he can try and go for the red that was refused by Trump previously, which probably tells you something you need to know about how straightforward it is going to be for Robertson to try and take that red into the right-hand side of the table. For now about to be getting that cue ball lined up for the red. So just carefully move that cue ball towards the red. And, well, it doesn't get any worse than this, I tell you. This is going to be missed to me. And it was, you know, it was such a dangerous shot because it looked like it was going to be simple for him. But, you know, the red was a couple of millimeters away from the side cushion, which is an absolute killer. And that's going to be a real test of those jaws. And, yeah, the red is going to be missed. So, interesting news for Robertson, though. Because of him able to score, you know, 11 points out of there, brilliant break. Certainly worth to be reaching the semi-final for, but on a serious note, it might actually give him another chance there because Trump has got 29 points of a lead before taking the black, which leaves him with 36 points of an advantage after the black is about to disappear. So he will need at least one of those reds of the 3 problem ones about to be taken. I was about to say the problem for Robertson is that he's managed to take one of them to be in open play, but with playing that shot with so much power, he got the cue ball to be way further away from the action than he would have liked. And, well, Robertson was saying what there, which, I mean, how is he saying to himself after missing that raid? But to be fair, with that raid not being positioned perfectly alongside that cushion, it's exactly why, to me, Trump was the one to turn it down on the previous occasion. Now and then, as he brings the red into the open play, can he try and take it into the corner? No, he can't, is the answer. And, I said Robertson was going to be coming back with a chance. He comes back with still a good opportunity there, 36 points being the difference. And, 59 still being at the table. 3-0 behind is nothing really, but let's be honest, players have won from further behind, especially since it's still a long way to go. Well, yeah, but, 4-0 and 3-1 is going to be a very difficult, different scoreline for you to be faced up with. And for now, Robertson probably would have needed for those frames to be closer than they were for you to be saying that it's going to be a chance for him to come back. Because he needs to come back in the first session. He can't just leave it all the way to the evening, because it's going to be ridiculous for him to think that he's going to be able to do roles reversed and win the second session by 7 frames to 1, which will only face a decider or something like that. For now, he needs to try and win this frame, and ideally step back to the table with a great action after the intermission. For now, it's Trump that has got the advantage in terms of points again, about to put the black into the horrible place as well. And yeah, the pursuit of Robertson seems like it's only going to get worse from here. I had an idea to just put all the balls on the table safe, then Trump can't win the frame, lol. Well, it's a genius proposition there, but Robertson is the one that finds himself behind, so he can't win the frame if you're going to be putting all those reds safe, but also, you can't put the colours safe, because for you to be putting the colour safe, you need to be lined up on the colour. For you to be lined up on the colour, you need to have potted red first. And the last thing that Robertson will be thinking about after he pots the red is trying to put some colour safe. A really good attempt with the long red, but in the end wasn't quite close enough. And the same red looks like it is going to be pottable there into the corner. Yeah, Robertson was starting to get into a position where he needs to be getting aggressive, because trying to stay on the back foot was never going to leave him to be winning those frames. And now about to come back to the favourable place in the arena so far today, in his seat. And Trump is going to have a shot at this red to be taken towards the left corner. The problem is, the 2 reds that Trump will need to be taking the frame away from Robertson are the ones that he's got in the open play. I agree, can't keep chasing all the way through the match because it gets harder and harder. I think Robertson will take 6-2 after the first session, to be honest. To be fair, it's a decent point there, but if you take 6-2, I mean, I'm not really going to say that you're going to have the chance of trying to do anything with it. 6-2 against Trump, I mean, tell me a player that had a 6-2 of a run against Trump in the recent couple of years and managed to win that match. He's probably going to be down to 1 or 2 players like that. No, certainly not this season, because Trump probably never found himself in a position to be 6-2 ahead, and we're still not through to the crucible just yet, which means not too many of those long formatted matches that we've seen to be played so far. And Robertson still finds himself in a difficult position here, even without having to try and chase 36 points, because Trump, as I say, had a run to try and go for the red into the corner. He decided not to be doing that and try and force the pink to be heading closer to the left side cushion. But yeah, listen, I understand what you mean by 6-2 after the first session, but 6-2 and Neil Robertson against Trump doesn't really have a good history there, because that's exactly the scoreline that he had against Trump at the Shanghai Masters. It was close to that scoreline in the UK Championship as well, and whatever you say about him, for him to try and win 8 out of the remaining 11 frames, I'm sorry, but it's just never going to happen unless Trump is going to be turning up without his cue there, or playing with no chalk, or playing with the wrong side of a cue, because look at that red that he's taken right now. Yes, it was a poor shot by Robertson, but that was such a brilliant, controlled pace of a shot, and Trump is about to make Robertson's life even more unbearable here when it comes to winning the 4th frame. Strange things do happen after 15 minutes of a break. We'll see, and I know what you mean by that. Trump had a really good run against Higgins, at the Masters semi-final. It didn't really stop Higgins from having a comeback of his life. And it seems to have all started to go wrong there after the intermission. But he didn't have a 4-0 lead against John at that point. But to be fair, it was a race to 6, not a race to 10, which is going to be the case here. But anyway, another red is about to disappear into the left middle. And he wasn't a colour to be playing after that red. So Trump just trying to make sure he gets that cue ball to be lined up in behind the brown or somewhat close to it. And Robertson is about to be playing the shot carefully onto the side. Make sure the black is going to be cannons into the open play. Hasn't, well, I mean, probably has done that, to be fair. I thought he was going to go too close to the right side rail, but in the end it's going to be possible into the right middle. But yeah, he does come across as a position with the yellow being out of position. 3 of those reds to be all lined up on the black ball cushion. The pink, the black to be out of position as well. Higgins playing really well at the moment. He beat Selby yesterday 10-8. Yes. And it's going to be a really interesting matchup with Jousington against John Higgins. But for now, is it going to be a really interesting matchup with 3 frames to 1, with Jutrom trying to make his way to make this session as comfortable as it's ever going to get? Or is it going to be Robertson to try and finally come back with, you know, the 4th frame of a win, prevent Trump from having a clean sweep so far, and also boosting his chances of actually trying to progress to the final stage? Oh, this does look like desperate times there for Robertson if he's about to take this plant into the corner, because chances of leaving this one over the corner very high, chances of making this red to go in the pocket very low. And yeah, I mean, in the end, both of those chances seem to be very low with how far away from the edge of the pocket he was there at the end. So 37 points of a difference, and still a chance here for Judd to try and keep those 3 reds safe. So after more than an hour and 15 minutes of the action, something that he didn't really need to be doing there, Trump, is to give 4 points away to Neil Robertson. And of course, the last thing that he wanted to be doing is to give away a free ball. It's not going to happen here, but was really close to be doing that. So this is one way for Robertson to be winning a frame, a 3 miss rule, which is going to apply to this situation. So Trump needs to hit this one second time. Otherwise, he'll find himself in a little bit of trouble. And Trump there just asking for a little bit of a VAR check. And make sure that he is going to be lined up nicely in a previous position. Towards the blue there that the cue ball needs to go. And there we go. Trump and Robertson are going to agree with this one. So the video assistant referee doing a fine job there to get the game to be back underway. And this seems like it's going to miss again. Well, I said it, he needs to hit it this time around. Otherwise, he'll be a 3 miss rule applied. And therefore, he needs to be giving himself a little bit more of a leeway, because that's one way of Robertson winning this frame. And despite having 11 points as his highest break there. And, yep, the warning is going to come there from Wen Williams. So, find yourself another line is what I would say, because you can't really be hitting that red with too much of the contact point, because that won't get the cue ball into the designated area anyway. So, what's it going to be then? He's about to choose another red, but it seems like he's still going to try and hit this one carefully. That certainly wasn't anything but careful, but can he try and get it into the green pocket? Wow, what a perfect double that is. Talk about the form of his life there from Trump, and Robertson is going to be absolutely, well, I don't know what is going to be the feeling, the word to describe him. Gutted, cannot believe it, fuming, and all of that combined. Probably going to describe the situation of Neil Robertson pretty well, because there was no hand of apology, and clearly that red was taken into the green spot. A green pocket on purpose. Now, those 8 points that he's given away have been neutralised by him eliminating 8 points out of the table there by taking that red. About to take the black away into the right corner, into the right middle as well, which will lead him down to 37 points of the advantage. So needs to be taking this red as a frame ball. And then you'll have the black to be taken into the left corner, and make sure Robertson is not going to be coming back to the table before the end of the intermission. So then 37 ahead, 43 remaining. He's able to get through past the black. Can he try and take this red? Of course he can. It doesn't seem like anything is impossible there for Trump. And another frame comes begging there for Robertson. It was always going to happen. And it was just a matter of time there, because way too many points and way too many problems there for Neil Robertson to try and make ground on. So as the blue is about to disappear as well, he probably will come back because of a free ball still being in play, because Trump is not going to have any sort of a chance of being lined up for this red. So 43 points being the difference, 35 at the table, and just carefully taking the cue ball towards the ball cushion. Another frame that seems like it's going to go the way of Judd Trump here, but Robertson will have to try and fight back. You know, he's got the yellow and the pink to be in an interesting position there in relation to one another, which, you know, in a couple of shots' time, if you get that free ball or at least 4 points onto this red, then you can always try and get the yellow to be away from the side cushion, get the cue ball to be perfectly lined up in behind the green, in behind the pink. And then he's going to be a bit of a rough finish to the frame there from Trump, potentially available. And, well, is he going to find a gap there in between the yellow and pink? Because it looked like a nice idea there from Robertson. And the execution could have been a lot better had the blue not been touched. And, you know, if you can see this red, you can always try and go for the potting angle. It's exactly what he's done. And not able to do it on this occasion, though. Gives a turn back to Robertson once again. And, you know, despite playing that shot with the attacking impression, of course, he was always going to be leaving that cue ball to be close to the right side rail, which leaves him nicely positioned for the brown and green potentially to be in the way of this red. And even if they weren't to the full extent, that cue ball was going to be close to the right corner. But Robertson seems to have played the shot just about well enough to make sure that he separates the cue ball and the red just about as far one from another as he can. So Trump is going to be coming back to the table one more time. And this time around, he feel like all he needs to do is try and make sure that red is going to be coming back in the gap of green and brown. That's exactly what he's done. And look at that for a shot. Brilliant. Clearly played out on purpose. And going to have a huge buffer there in terms of the green to be covering the cue ball from seeing that red directly. And one cushion escape. Well, two cushion escape is not going to be possible here because of the yellow being in the way. And one cushion is going to be anything but simple. And surely now it is going to be frame conceded. No, he won't be. 4 points to be given away. Robertson still tries to fight back for as long as he can. But I feel like the next time he comes back to the table, surely it is going to have to be the end. The pink and the yellow are positioned perfectly onto the left side rail. And now any sort of a delay or a chance for Robertson to be coming back in the frame is going to be put down to 0 of a chance. Trump has got a performance to remember, and can he try and convert it into a comfortable finish to the first session as well? It is going to be 4-0 of a lead. And look at the total points scored there by Judd, 376 in comparison to 34 of those to be scored by Neil Robertson. All of them to come in the fourth frame, but also so many of those to be coming from foul points as well. Only 18 of those points have been scored by Robertson himself. 16 have been given away by foul shots there by Judd. Wow. So many things to say. Not too many, though, on the behalf of Neil Robertson. He's got a mountain to climb, and he's got such huge trouble up ahead of himself to try and find himself once again in the final. He was looking for that revenge, but he clearly, whatever he was looking for, certainly wasn't able to find the answers. Now, what can he try and do differently in the second session? I'm not even going to be making the jokes of turning up to the match because he seems to have played pretty well for now in the safety play there. But when it comes to just getting those chances, either he doesn't get any of them, or he's going to be lined up in the situation where Trump is always going to be outplaying him there, because realistically, just try and break you through there, because the biggest problem that I have with Robertson is going to be the second and the fourth frames. Let's start with the fourth one, because this was the frame where he actually had the chance to be winning that one. He was on a break. There was a mistake from Trump. He was scoring some points there, and he was having those foul points to be given away there from Judd's point of view. And yet, he wasn't able to do anything with those points. Why? Because of playing bad positional play shots. You know, he's had that first red, which he was taken into the corner, which basically was in the pocket there after a really poor of a shot from Trump. Then he takes the pink into the left middle, and then straight after that point, he finds himself in loads of trouble and misses the next red into the corner because he realizes that whatever he was doing, he wasn't going to be lined up on the pink. He wasn't going to be on the black. He needed to play for the pink, for the blue or the bold colours. And with the angle that he had on the reds, he always needed to have a little bit of a lucky cannon from the main pack. So way too many variables for the third shot on the break there. And once again, in contrast to that, you've got Watchalong making breaks of 87, 94, 113 from a lot more of a difficult position, by the way, in frame number 3 than the one that Robertson had in frame number 4 there. So, you know, whatever you say about him, it certainly wasn't a great performance from Neil, but you have to give full credit to Watchalong. Apart from 4th frame was a little bit more of a worse of a standard, but only because he's managed to set the benchmark so high and got himself to have such a comfortable 3 frame of a lead there. Total points 376. I'll tell you what, 375 people watching. Thank you very much for everyone tuning in. Feel free to be back at the second session as well after this one is finished, because we're about to have 4 more frames to follow, hopefully of a little bit of a closer battle. But yeah, once again, just want to say 4th frame was the one that had seen the chance given away to Robertson. The second one was a very cheap giveaway to Chom because, you know, he gets himself in a position there, Robertson, to be snooking in behind the yellow, very much with the first shot of the frame there. And what does he do? He leaves Chom the only one of those 15 reds that he could have potentially left right underneath there with the cue ball and able to take that reds into the left middle. Chom makes that one in and makes a break of 94 points out of it. And, you know, if that is not the case, then you still have got a bit of a chance for Chom to be getting the first opportunity. But, you know, it's very different for you to be getting a chance like that in the 4th frame when you're 3-0 down, but also having exactly the same chance away when you're going to be 1 frame down from the sort of, you know, is it going to be a mental point of view? Is it going to be a bit of a just advantage to your opponent having all sorts of momentum out there as well? All those factors are just going to accumulate, and this is exactly why the scoreline of 4-0 is going to be the only fair of an outline there after the first 4 frames, because even if Robertson was somehow to steal that 4 frame, it would be called a steal for a reason, because it would have been a little bit poor of Chom to be just loosening the grip a little bit and allowing Robertson to be coming back with a performance like that. In the end, he's managed to make that thing last for him, and certainly now finds himself in a really comfortable position in the next 4 frames. Whatever happens, especially if he's going to be able to win at least 1 more of those frames away, he's going to find himself ahead after the first session for the first time. Remember, 4-all against Murphy, 4-all against Allen, but in both of those matches he found himself to be struggling at the opening stage, and certainly something that hasn't happened so far in this match for now. And going to be 10-0 for Chom. Well, it could be, but we'll have to wait and see. Many thanks to all the watchers. Please hit the like and subscribe to the channel to avoid missing matches notifications. Yes, thank you very much. So feel free to hit the bell as well, because after the action of the Tour Championship is going to finish late on Sunday evening here in the UK, it's going to be potentially 1 week worth of a break. Then we're going to be back for a couple of exhibition matches for a great cause there of Stephen Hendry against Ronnie O'Sullivan, and a potential Class of 92 being played alongside that match as well in the Exhibition Cup of Ireland to commemorate the great John Berger of snooker. And then it's going to be down to either a couple of qualifiers to be seeing if the lineup is going to be there, because I've seen that potentially, fingers crossed, we could see Chang Min-yu against Luca Brissell in the 3rd round of qualifiers. And I tell you what, I mean, it's a little bit sad there because 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, Luca Brissell was winning this tournament, and now he finds himself having to play every single one of these qualifiers matches. So it's a little bit sad for him, but I mean, for purely the setup points, Chang Min-yu against Brissell there, it's not really going to get better than that in qualifiers, I'll tell you that for free. So great setup there, potentially on the line. And it's only going to be the outside of a main draw. You can only guess what's going to happen when we get to the best players to be playing. You know, we've seen the seeds to be lined up probably in the best possible manner. We can avoid to be seeing a couple of those upset in the 1st round there, but you could see certainly one of the Class of 92 to be eliminated by the 2nd round end. Is it going to be John Higgins or Ronnie to try and make it to the 3rd round? We'll have to wait and see how well they do with their respective qualifier matches. But for now, it is going to be purely down to try and keep those players back to the arena. And yeah, seemed like we've analysed really well with what Robertson has done. As I say, there's not been too much to analyse. Trump, brilliant, extraordinary, wonderful and beautiful there from Trump in terms of the way that he's managed to take this game to a whole new level straight away. In there with the first frame, bang 87, bang at 94 in the second one, bang a century break of 113. A little bit shaky to start off the fourth frame, but to be fair, he was far from having an easy position to be set up with. So in the end, it was always going to be down to having a lineup with 4-0 of a cushion. And now you can see total points 376 there, more than 12 times more than, well, exactly 12 times more than he scored with Neil Robertson respectively. And yeah, with Robert though, let's have a look how many World Championship points is he going to have to defend, because once again, you go back to that 2024 season where he's not going to have too many of those players to be defending those ranking points, but at the end, I'm not even sure he's made it to the main draw of that Crucible that year, and he hasn't. Wow. That was a huge disappointment there from Robertson. I feel like who was he playing there? Jamie Jones in the Judgment Day of the World Championship, and he lost out in the decider by 10 frames to 9. Wow, I wonder how that one actually happens. Losing out to the world number 60. And Jones seemed like he had an early lead there of 3 frames to 2. Then Robertson took a lead of 8 frames to 5. And yeah, lost 3 frames on the bounce, so made that 8 frames all. Robertson was the one to take a 9-8 lead before Jamie Jones went on to win 2 more frames and get himself with a 10-9 win to become the reality. So yeah, this is going to be a bit of a problem when you haven't got the second match to be alongside us. But talk about the second match. Who's going to be the favourite in the matchup of Zhao Xingtong against John Higgins? Because, you know, you feel like that setup is going to be probably slightly in favour of Zhao there, because he would have had that mark sharpness by the end of the match with Wakelin. You know, probably a little bit too early to be calling for fatigue or tiredness from John Higgins' camp. So would expect a really good response there from Zhao Xingtong at the starting point, but the further the match will go, the more of a capability of John Higgins to be coming back with the response will certainly be there as well. And yeah, so probably not going to change my mind that Zhao being the favourite, but as I say, I would really love to be seeing Higgins to go all the way and win the Tour Championship and only become the second player on the current tour to be doing that twice. And the first player to be doing that is currently playing on the main table to be doing that in 2022 and 2021. And it is, of course, going to be the one and only Neil Robertson. If you talk through all the winners list, you know, Trump is not going to be on there. And remember, before this tournament, he's managed to win only one of those matches in the previous last 6 years. Lost out to the first round match in the quarterfinals last season to Williams, which, you know, sorry, not to Williams, but yeah, may have been to Williams. So let's have a look. To Hawkins, it was 10 frames to 5. And the year before that, he's lost to Mark Williams, the eventual champion of 2024. And yeah, if you talk about the winners, 2019 it was Ronnie, 2020 was Stephen Maguire, then 21-22 was Neil Robertson, Sean Murphy and Mark Williams in 23 and 24. And then of course last season, the fantastic triumph of John Higgins, despite being 8-5 down to Selby, able to come back in the final and have a fantastic streak of winning 5 frames on the bounce without ever looking back. I don't know who will win out of Xingtong or Higgins, but I don't particularly care. Both players are alike. Of course, Zhao has never won the Tour Championship, but Higgins has. It'd be crazy if Higgins won it 2 years in a row, though. He would be great because he beat Selby in the final last year. Yeah, so both of those points do have a right to live there, but I would probably give the edge to Higgins just because I know for a fact that Zhao Xingtong will be winning this tournament. If not this specific tournament, then he'll be winning so many more of those in the upcoming season, but you always have a little bit of a soft spot because you never feel like, you know, you may be seeing history to be made there by Higgins. And, you know, we've seen that fantastic Williams win at the Xi'an Grand Prix. And you always wonder, is he going to be his last one? He was nowhere near to be reaching another final ever since. And, you know, Higgins was in the final of Nanjing. He was one in the Alexandra Palace at the Players' Championship. All of those tournaments in Telford as well. But it seemed like you're always going to be the runner-up there. 10-6 to Weezer, 10-6 to Wilson, 10-7 to Zhao Xingtong. The opposition players doesn't really get any, well, better than that when he comes to the final. Now, he's going to have to be playing against Robertson or Trump if he makes his way to the final, which is going to be something new for him to experience at the final this season. But for now, he's going to have to try and get through that horrible hill of Zhao Jington to beat, very much the player to beat. And Higgins is consistently, he's been really consistent out there, but at the same time, you're going to be down to consistency is going to matter for you when you have generic predictions. Do you feel like if it's going to be down to the semi-final, then you could always have a little bit of that room to be left out for the pure brilliance on the day. And I feel like it's not really going to be down to either one of those players to be lucky in that part of their game. Saying that, Zhao's already won 2 tournaments lately, both ranking events, and one of them, by the way, was in the final against John Higgins. That fantastic run that he had at the Players' Championship, despite that match being super close at the end of it, and still that step up was, sort of enabled from Zhao Jington at the end of it, and he seemed like he's had around 100 horsepower that he was trying to hold back, sandbagging there as they call it in motorsports, and in the end, as soon as he dropped that extra weight, he was able to accelerate and make a couple of those centuries, which, of course, John Higgins described. I'm not sure if he was describing him as Maradona, because I know he described one of them to be George Best, the other one to be Diego Maradona there, so I'm not sure which one it was, but certainly one of the two, which, it's going to be a huge privilege to be hearing that from the legend of the game. And back-to-back Grand Prix and Players' Championship. Yes, true on that one. And, of course, he was able to do that whilst having those tournaments one after the other. So, the only player this season to do that with ranking events, and the only player to win 2 ranking events this season, by the way. Because if you talk about Murphy being close at the German Masters to try and make it 2, Trump had numerous finals before that German Masters win. And Selby, of course, had the 2 tournament wins this season, but one of them to be Invitational of Champion of Champions, and the other to be at the, the UK Championship with the Triple Crown, which is going to be a great addition to that ranking points that Selby has managed to score this season so far. And, of course, it is now going to be all down to those rankings to be sorted out. And as I can say, after Williams dropping down the rankings there and becoming the world number 6, Zhao is going to overtake John Higgins now no matter what, because of, of course, Higgins having a couple of those points to try and defend from the Tour Championship of a couple of seasons ago. Zhao wasn't playing there, so whatever he's going to be able to score, he's going to be able to get through nicely. And shocked that run, he couldn't lift his 42nd ranking event title at the World Open because China beat him. B and H are close to each other on the keyboard, so I'll let you off with that one. So I'm pretty sure you didn't mean that on purpose. Yes, there you go. As I say, I always do a little bit of a check there to make sure that you have done that accidentally and not on purpose. But yeah, it was a fantastic run by Chipchaya, to be fair, because, coming into the last 16 match against Marco Fu, he looked like he had a decent draw to be playing against Gary Wilson, or Zhao Jington actually, in the quarterfinals. In the end, Gary Wilson managed to beat Zhao Jington and find himself to be in that great privilege of playing against Chipchaya there, and still managed to accidentally, as I say, it was clearly accidental for you, especially because you've managed to correct yourself straight away, so no questions asked. And what was I going to say? Yeah, Chipchaya was really playing really well there, fantastically well. Managed to beat Trump, completely deserved there. Yes, Trump probably played his worst semi-final of the season. You could mention the 2 deciders that he had against John Higgins, but also, a couple of really good wins in the semi-finals that he had. By the way, about to talk about the semi-final, it is going to be Trump to try and break off and take the 5th frame off to a start. Now, is it going to be Robertson to find the response there of some sort, or is it going to be Trump? Try and make sure it is going to be as comfortable as it's ever going to get. The first break-off shot certainly suggests that it's going to be the latter. And we've seen one of those whitewashes in the final last season at the Players' Championship there from Neil Robertson up against Stuart Bingham. Now, what's it going to be here then? A potential whitewash in the semi-final. Still being on the horizon there. Trump is going to be 40% done, with him having 4-0 of a lead. Robert needs to get one more to stop a big defeat. Yes, absolutely, because he probably has to be talking about just trying to make a game out of it for now. And he seems to be taking a very narrow line in terms of catching the blue. And he played this one well in terms of avoiding the blue. Very close to the cushion, though, at the jaw of the left corner. And at the end, just about managed to get that cue ball in a relatively safe zone. But still, is that going to be enough to avoid sort of any pressure from Watchalong to be added? Because the answer for me is going to be no. Because I can see a line of that cue ball to be taken past every single one of those reds. Yes, that will require loads of cue action, but you know, it's probably not the shot that you want to be set up with at the starting point of the second mini session, but it's one of those shots that's exactly the reason why you want those 4 frames of a cushion to be yours for the taking, because you know, you're going to have the ability to be taking shots like that. Wow, he's trying to hold that one with no power, and I tell you what, is he going to be lined up for the black? He certainly deserves that because of how well he's managed to take that red away. I mean, I was actually looking for a potential way of trying to guide that cue ball past those reds. In the end, he's done anything but that. And he's about to be lined up for the black to be taken into the left corner. So, well, as I said, after the intermission, there's 2 ways that the match can go on. Trump can either make a couple of those mistakes there, or he can be very much... and Robertson can come back stronger, or he can be just exactly the same thing that we've seen in the first 4 frames, where Trump runs away and Robertson tries to play the chase game until he realizes that the distance is going to be too much, and inevitably it slips and not going to be able to make it over the finish line there. For now, it seems like the second scenario is about to be fulfilled in reality, because once again, it is the black spot being, taken to the use there by Trump. About to take the black... Oh, overcut that one by a mile there. Don't know what happened there. Perfect jinx. Thank you very much there. And you're welcome, Neil Robertson fans, because it wasn't even meant to be the case. Yeah, overcut that one by a huge amount of distance. I don't know what happened there. As much as, you know, he was lined up slightly underneath the black, but, you know, not for the first time he's done that in this match so far. And yet he's about to have a really positive chance given away here to Robertson. I think Bingham's game has gone downhill. Been pretty quiet, Bingham, apart from making it to the quarterfinals of the Welsh. I'm not sure I've heard anything about him this season at all. And the reason for him to be in the top 22 is purely going to be down to reaching the semi-finals of the World Championship. Because if he's going to be losing anywhere near those 100,000 worth of ranking points, then he's going to be in a massive worth of trouble to try and stay in the top 32 there. Not even talking about trying to pressurize the top 24 of the World Snooker Tour players. So he's got a massive crucible campaign to try and protect what is going to be his for the taking there a couple of seasons ago. But yeah, certainly doesn't seem like he's got a great game to speak for himself so far in the season. But it only means that he can go better than that. Although he's probably not at the situation bearing in the age where, you know, the only way for you is up the rankings. And the game certainly has to improve there for Stewart, but now it's going to be spotlight stolen there by Neil Robertson, the player that has managed to beat Bingham in the Players' Championship last season. Probably the highlight of the last 14 or 6 months there by Stuart Bingham himself. One of the highlights of the 16 months of Neil Robertson as well, because apart from taking that brilliant win at the Players' Championship and at the, at the Saudi Masters earlier this season, seem to have had a pretty quiet campaign ever since, missing out a couple of tournaments through different reasons, and now going to be lined up for the red. About to be taken here to the left corner. Make sure that cue ball is going to be getting those miles in for now, because he probably only needs to be taking those shots with the blue for the first couple of attempts, and then he should be able to move down for the black and make the most out of the most expensive colour there to be utilised to his full potential. We're now about to pretty much double the highest break scored there in terms of 20 points that he scores. 11 being highest that he's achieved in the previous 4 frames. Seems to have lost his chalk there as well, but hasn't lost his sense of humour there, as we've seen in frame number 4. Now then about to take a nice thread away into the left corner, which, of course, the further he takes those away from the pink there, the nicer it is going to be for him to have those 3 main colours to be available, because that red was always going to be in the way of the pink, potentially to be taken into the left corner, even though clearing up that red doesn't necessarily mean that pink is going to be possible into 4 of those main pockets. But at least you're going to be on the way to trying to accomplish that mission. But also, he's not too far away from making this gap to be the one that really matters to him, because look at 37 points to be scored with 2 of those players, 99 at the table, which means that so many of those reds will be needed there for Robertson to try and take it away from Chomp. And as I say, at this stage, he certainly needs to be taking a couple of frames, well, ideally 3 frames on the bounce as the remaining 4, because if he wins the second mini session by 3 frames to 1, then he's still going to have a decent chance, and certainly the one that he will take, being 5-3 down after having a 4-0 of a deficit after the opening 4 frames. About to be lined up with a huge angle on the black, but able to take it nicely. So in terms of the position on the reds, well, it seems like it's going to be anything but nice here. Well, it's going to be nasty, that. And he's gone from nice to nasty in a couple of seconds, because needed to give that red a bit more of a hit, and now it's either a really horrible cut into the green pocket, which needs to be taking that red all the way, or it's horrible bridging over the same red and taking the one into the opposite side of the left corner of the table. Neither of those options are going to be the one that makes Robertson feel any sort of confidence there, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays a safe shot out of it, because way too little distance between the cue ball and the red to be taking that one into the green pocket. But the same is going to apply to trying to bridge over the red, trying to reach 75% of the table diagonally across as well, which doesn't help the case. And the good news is, if he gets this red in and he gets the position on the black, that 59 points of an advantage that he's going to be looking for before he's going to have 59 points remaining at the table, is going to be his for the taking, with 3 more reds to be in open play to add to 27 points, 28 with this red as well. But this one can easily be missed into the front jaw, and it's going to be played absolutely spot on there by Robertson. So it's a real test there that he manages to pass and stay within a really good opportunity to be taking this frame away there. So 28 points as a lead, about to be 35 here with the black. So if you take 3 more reds with a black, it's going to get you exactly 59 points of a lead, which is going to be the maths that Robertson is looking at. But it seems like he's got the red next to the pink about to be playable into the right middle or the left corner, which makes that maths to be relevant. And 4 reds that he needs to be looking for should be available to him. So the stage is yours. Just take it away there, Robertson. So far, he's already managed to go 4 times better than his previous best record in the 4 frame. And of course, still would love to have that a little bit of confidence to be kicking him to himself and win a frame in just a single visit to the table. No mistake that he's going to be taking a couple of extra seconds every single time there. Robert will start now. He needs to. It's never too late in the first to 10 match, but if he's going to be leaving himself with more and more frames to try and catch it there in relation to Trump, then inevitably, at some point, he's going to have to realise that he's left himself with a bit too much of work to do. This is going to be an interesting short selection, because he's about to be lined up for the pink, which is clearly going to be tactical to try and get that pink away from the danger zone. But it's not even going to be down to this. It's going to be down to just taking that pink and pass and make sure he goes past the red. And that needs, that requires him taking that shot into the front jaw, which he has done. So taking that pink nicely away from the contact point with the reds, which Robertson has played for nicely right now. So pink is going to go underneath the main pack of 4 reds, which leaves Robert to try and probably get the red away from the right corner first, because from taking that last red, which you'll need, he's going to be lined up nicely for the pink to be potentially taken away there. Or he can always try and just send the cue ball to be heading into those reds, although something that he doesn't really need to be doing. Wow. What did I say? Last set, I promised I wasn't doing that whilst seeing him miss the black, but he didn't have to be doing that at all. He had those 2 reds to be available. That would have taken him over the frame ball, and now 5-0. He's going to be absolutely on the horizon there for Trump, and I felt like it wasn't even held spot there. I feel like the reds were holding their pink spot, although he may have done that with the cue ball because he was trying to reserve it for the right-hand side as well. But now it was a horrible miss on the black, and now Trump is about to have those 4 reds very much in the open play there. Robertson will match the 10-4. Well, it's going to be really difficult to try and do it from here, because he can't be winning the match 10-4 if you're going to be 5-0 down. And for now, it is certainly something that is going to happen on my bingo card, because 35 points with 59 at the table, 35 points of a difference is going to be absolutely nothing there, with Trump having the form that he's had so far. But, you know, even if it was Robertson with having so little form that he's been getting in the previous couple of frames, then he still would have had such a great chance of trying to take those straights far away into the left and right corner, and using the paint to be the one utilised as the colour. A bit of a bad shot from Chum now, but as I say, he's going to have loads of leeway in relation to those reds. Crazy miss he was, but it was down to why he needed to play that shot, because I'm pretty sure it was down to taking an eye off the potting angle and just trying to focus too much on getting that cue ball to be separating the reds. Why would you do that when you clearly have got 2 more reds that you need for you to be the winner of the frame there, at a horrible situation in terms of the scoreline, being 4-0 down, potentially with a chance to go 5-0 down as well. And yeah, why on earth would you try and split up those 4 reds? And you could always try and say, well, so you've got more of an option, but you only needed 3 more shots there to play. By the way, Trump taking no chances there with that cue ball. Very close to dropping that one into the left middle after the huge screw back that he was trying to hold it for the blue. Looks like to me Robertson is just scoring bits and pieces. Well, it's an improvement on the first 3 frames, but where he wasn't scoring any of those points. But he certainly seems to have got away with that one a bit too late. And you know, if he was doing that in the first or the second frame, you could always say he can come back later. He's not going to be able to come back later if he finds himself 5-0 down against the world number 1, though. And it seems to be the exact case scenario that we are seeing here. And as I say, there's not really a lot to say for you. Trump has got 8 shots in between himself and winning another frame. And for the first time, it actually looked like Robertson was going to be having a frame to lose. But, you know, when you've got a frame to lose and you still lose it, it doesn't really make you feel any better. If anything, it makes you feel even worse after realising that you had the chance to try and take it away from the opposition. You haven't done that. And Trump, as I say, he's only going to be 7 shots away from doing that now. Make that 6 with the reds. Doesn't want to be straight on the black, though. Ooh, I mean, he doesn't want to be straight on the black here, because as much as he has got cue power, it's never nice when you need to... Wow, that is horrible straight. I mean, let's have a look. Trump doesn't seem like he's bothered about it, but he needs to be using 2 of the side cushions to get that cue ball somewhat close to the blue. And he's done that with just 1. And look at that for a shot. Brilliant. Especially with the position that he had. You know, to be getting that cue ball with so much spin onto the left side and getting himself lined up about as nicely on the yellow. And wow, he's missed the yellow there. Is he going to leave it? Is he going to leave it? It's going to be close. Seems like he's just about left this one away. Well, from sublime to the ridiculous. What on earth happened there from Judd? It's a mistake that you would expect from Robertson to be... Has he left this one, though? No, he hasn't. Wow, Robertson can only try and play a safety shot out of it. Whatever you say, Trump is certainly getting lucky with that one, because he had no right to be having that blue to be in the middle of the cube on the yellow. And, well, at least Robertson is still alive there. But how on earth Trump hasn't finished the work and made himself to go 5-0 clear. 6-0 down, it would be hard for Robertson to win. Not impossible, but a real big problem. I felt like you're really underplaying that one. You know, it's impossible for him to be winning this from 4-0 down. When it comes to 6-0 down, it's going to be down to what's the scoreline going to be there and when Trump is going to win and not if. I'm pretty sure you don't realise how Trump plays the game, because if you say 6-0 is not impossible but difficult, then, I mean, I wonder you would say if he was 9-0 down. Anyway, he's still going to have a chance to try and take this one 4-1 of a deficit after a horrible mistake from Robertson, equally as bad of a mistake from Trump on the yellow and black there. And despite Robertson having 6 points of a gap, it's going to mean absolutely nothing. It's a battle for the yellow. The 5 of the remaining colours are all going to be on their spots. And yeah, all down to whoever gets on the yellow and manages to get themselves lined up for the green as well. Can't come back after a 6-0, but once again, impossible to me. Lucky, yeah, certainly Horrible shot there by Trump that he's played, and very fortunate not to be leaving a yellow into the open play. Now, once again, it's Trump that plays a careful shot on towards the yellow. Response is there for Robertson. And just carefully making sure that he was going to be resting onto the black ball cushion again. Another bit of a slow ending to the frame. And 2 hours in, we've only had 4.5 of those to be finished. But this one is going to be a brilliant shot there by Trump, because now this is where Robertson found himself in trouble. And this is why it was so important for Trump to make sure that blue was in the end very much the colour to separate the yellow and the cue ball. And so now a potential chance here for the white to be sent off the right side. Make sure that Robertson is going to be able to hit this one pretty much full in the face. Oh, he's done anything but that. And is he going to get a little bit of luck of his own? It seems like he's got that, because he got that yellow to be having such a thin contact. And got a good kiss with the black as well, to get that yellow to be lined up on the left side cushion, the cue ball to be on the top side of it. But in the end, there's nothing you can do about it from the attacking play. Hidden hole coming up, it was. And it seems to have worked out there for Robertson. Trump will have to fade a bit and help Robertson. Can't see that happening. Yes, true. True. I agree with that. But for now, once again, you'll have to... The thing about a comeback like that, very close, but a good shot there for Trump to avoid a double kiss. Although I say a good shot, nowhere near a safe place on the cue ball, and also having that yellow to be in open place, probably anything but a good shot. You know, could have been worse if he was a double kiss, but now Robertson surely needs to step up his game, and he's unable to do it. Yellow is going to come missing, and I don't really love the line. I feel like the yellow is going to stop perfectly over the green pocket, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Well, Trump was very fortunate not to be leaving that yellow away to the right middle, and the first chance that Robertson has gone for a long red for the long yellow, it looks like it's going to be the last shot that he plays before being 5-0 down. Trump gave him a little bit of hope, which would have hurt even more there, because when you give yourself hope and you're not able to take it, it's going to be very difficult for you to try and come back in the next couple of frames. And now Trump finds himself with only blue and pink that he needs to take. And then it is going to be 5-0 down to Mark Selby at the UK Championship final, 5-0 up against Neil Robertson at the semi-final of the Tour Championship. And I tell you what, Andrew was saying, that Trump can take this one away, and 6-2 is going to be very much on the horizon. I said give him time there for Robertson. Now he hasn't got anything but time, and the pink is about to disappear. It's a break of 20 points, and now it is a 5-0 lead for Judd Trump. Robertson is going to stand no chance in the first session. Can he try and leave himself with anything to hang on to in session number 2? For that, he needs to win every single one of those 3 frames. Other than that, it is going to be Judd Trump to be taking a 7-1, 6-2 or an 8-0 of a lead. Still being very much a possibility ahead of the world number 1. And the top seeded player on the 1-year list, Neil Robertson, is about to have a batter there from the world number 1 on the 2-year ranking list. Not there today, Robert. Yep, absolutely. Usually lately when Robertson and Trump play, it's closer than this. Yes, GG's match, I think. Robin Deepwater said, well, I don't know what to say to that, because 5-0 down, first to 10, it's never impossible, because remember Chipchaya against Ronnie there, 4-0 down, and that was Ronnie in a 4-0 of a lead. Chipchaya was able to come back to win 6 frames on the bounce, but without Ronnie playing badly, to be fair, until the end there, he was playing horrible stuff in frame number 8 and 9, but, you know, the first 3 frames were really class there from Chipchaya, and if Robertson's going to be able to just make himself to try and get into the game, then maybe it's going to be something in the making there, but for now, it seems like it is going to be just what the scoreline is going to be in favour of Judd Trump on his way to another ranking event final and try and make it the second title after beating Sean Murphy in the German Masters. And yes, Robert just looks lost today. Yeah, no answer. No answer on so many of those points. Safety being the only aspect which probably is going to be a match towards Trump. Let's have a look at the stats, if there are going to be some. So if you look at the matches and if you look at the match center, and there's going to be points. Match Average shot time 29 seconds, 35% of the pot rate in favour of 76 for... I mean, I don't know what that means anyway, because pot success is going to be way higher than that for Judd. Time on the table is 33% for Neil, 67 away to Trump. You know, you do wonder how he hasn't won at least one of those frames, but at the end, you do also wonder how Trump is going to have to lose a frame like that, because he was close to doing that in the frame number 5. He was pretty close to doing that in the frame number 4 as well, at the starting point of it, and still, we find Robertson to be absolutely on the ropes and finding himself 5-0 down here. And Robertson should have put a bet on Trump to lose low. Well, you shouldn't really be joking with stuff like that, because you're not allowed to be betting on the match which features yourself. And I'm not even sure if you're meant to be doing that on any one of those bets, because it's 128. So say if it was Trump to be doing that on Jowsey Dunn against John Higgins, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be allowed to be doing that anyway. But yeah, it's a whole another story when you do that on your own match. And it feels like his journey is going to be difficult as it is right now, because another break-off shot by Robertson and another chance to be taken here into the left corner away by Judd Trump. And well, this time around, this one is not going to make it into the pocket. The cue ball needs to come running and needs to have that blue as the cover point. Robertson looked like he was going to be so opportunistic and so optimistic coming back to the table, and then the cue ball seems to have just about stopped in time there for that blue still to be in the way. And in the end, he's going to have to play a safety shot once again there, playing that cue ball away from the main bunch. Get it a huge bounce off the right side. Make sure he doesn't catch the green with the wrong side of it now. And yeah, basically has that cue ball to be left to the green spot. But once again, the horrible thing about the way that every single one of those frames to be heading is that Trump, even when he doesn't take half of his chances, he seems to be getting triple, quadruple, or even more than that, the number of chances in comparison to the ones that Robertson seems to be getting. Because for every chance that Robertson gets, you know, Trump feels like he's going to have 3 or 4 there, and it's exactly what happened now. And if he's going to have a favourable kiss on the reds, he's going to have another great chance to try and take this frame away from Robertson. And, well, not quite in relation to where the cue ball is finished, in relation to the black here, but it still looks like the cue ball is about to be taken towards his black here. He's going to have to bridge very awkwardly over the reds. The black probably will find the back of the pocket, but the position on the reds probably won't be there, although doesn't mean that he won't go for something more difficult. You know, the shot into the yellow pocket, the shot into the right middle. The thing about Trump now, having a 5-0 of a lead, he can do whatever he wants. If he wants to go for a double, despite being 50 points down, he can do that. If he wants to go for a red like that, he can, and he's going to be able to make it into the corner pocket as well. Once again, making those difficult shots to count for him. And yet again about to have another run here, potentially, with Robertson not even scoring 100 points with the previous 5 frames and a bit. Now, I mean, that was a bit of unexpected there for Trump. He clearly tried to make contact with those reds, but surely he's still not going to be able to be lined up for the reds. And I'm not sure. I tell you what, Robertson is going to have to just try and walk away from the table. If Trump is lined up for the shot, wow, that is a fluke, and that is 3 flukes and a half. That basically, he's managed to find the tightest of margins for that cue ball to be heading all the way for the top end of the table. So instead of the reds absorbing all the power, he's had the cue ball to run around the table, catch the brown with a kiss, and finish up with the slightest of touches towards one of those reds, and in the end, to be lined up perfectly for the red to be taken into the left corner, and still being perfectly lined up on the black now. Sometimes, when it's not your day, there's nothing you can do about it, and it shouldn't come down to this. You know, Trump has been playing brilliantly, but whatever you say, in the last couple of frames there, he certainly had a good run of the ball. First, that yellow that he missed, and could have easily left it for a straightforward clearance there for Robertson, which would have been the difference between 4-1 and 5-0. And now this is probably going to be just about as bad there, just because of how far the cue ball had to travel and how close it was to not being on anything through no fault or achievement of his own. And in the end, with the last sort of millimeter of travel there from the cue ball. It was lined up perfectly, and look at that, even there, he nearly potted the red into the left corner alongside the blue, but with him having that run of the ball, that red was always going to stay out of the left corner, and yeah, he's about to have another blue to be taken with the next couple of shots as well, but for now, it is going to be a straightforward run to the finish line here for Trump, although he still needs to be careful in relation to those reds because of how many there are on the table here. You know, in relation to, he needs to be playing the first shot away for the blue, and then it's going to be down to clearing up the left-hand side of the table through those reds, because it's the part that doesn't have the black or the pink to be available. So, just probably try and take the red into the right-hand side of the table. Well, he's got two options here. A red over the pocket into the left part, which is not going to be a guarantee for you to pot, because as much as it's over the pocket, you're going to need to be sending the second red from a huge amount of a distance there. So, as I say, no surprise that he's going to be taking the opposite side of the table. Well, he should have done without the contact for the black. He's still going to be lined up for the pink. Once again, he's probably going to have to give a little bit of credit to the luck from that kiss on the black, but still, the shot is going to be anything but easy. So 31 points of a lead, 107 at the table, looking for 500 points to be scoring. 500,000 to be scoring. No wonder Robertson doesn't stand a chance. He's going to be 500,000 points down, but he's about to be 6 more points down, although, yeah, I feel like he's fine here. Well, I mean, is he fine? He's going to be positioned for only one of those reds to be taken, and he needs to be taking it into the left corner of the table, but also he's got two issues here. The red that I said is going to be over the pocket is potentially going to be in the way of the red that he's about to play here, so yeah, he seems to have turned his back on that red, which means, yeah, with that red being over the pocket, I'm not sure what he can do here apart from sending the red over the yellow pocket and try and just take it along the side cushion. So he needs to be absolutely certain that he can't go for the red into the corner. Robertson will be disappointed with this performance. This is not looking good for Robertson behind. Yes, true, but he's about to find himself back to the table unless Trump is able to deliver a great bit of difference again. Well, he's trying to play a safety shot. Bold move there from Trump. And he seems to have played this one just about well enough, although you can never count out something like a swerve around this rate, although yeah, he's played this one really well, to be fair to Trump. And 37 points of a break there with 107 available. You know, he lost his foot in a little bit on that break, and despite having such a huge split of the reds, he didn't manage to get a close and a clean run of the colour all reds on 3 shots that he's played. Had to be taken both of those reds and the pink to be difficult, and inevitably run himself out of position, despite still having a red to be over the corner that he was intending to go for. So then Robertson needs to be getting that cue ball into the exact position that it is now, and ultimately just try and hope that the whites will be coming nicely at him. So that's going to be risky, because if he catches the jaw of the middle, that's going to be a disaster, and that's exactly what happened. Once again, no luck there for Robertson, but he probably should have been taking that cue ball further away from the side cushion anyway, to make sure that he wasn't going to leave it down to luck or no luck. So, black and pink. Well, black certainly. Not sure about the pink going into the right corner. It'll certainly be a great boost to chances of Trump if that is the case. And he certainly seems like, purely on the power, it seems like he was playing for the pink. And, yeah, if this one goes, then he's going to be game over here. And, well, I'll tell you what, it's close. I wouldn't say it's comfortable, though, with the pink being so close to those reds in relation to its position right now, but also the line that the pink needs to take in relation to the corner pocket. It's going to be close. Wow. The fact that he's taking that one into the front jaw of the pocket as well probably shows you how comfortable or how close it was there, but even that didn't stop Watchalong from continuing on the break, and once again getting started with a break of 7 points and counting. You know, 44 being the difference, 99 at the table. The fact that he's got the pink very much at his disposal. You know, he's managed to put it beforehand into the right corner. He's probably going to go for it on a couple more of those occasions until he clears up those reds right next to it. And yeah, this time around he's got that cue ball to be slightly further away from the pink, which sometimes can be a sign for a disaster, but not this time around. And once again, every single time he takes the pink, it needs to be spot on in terms of his placement. And of course, needs to be checking the work of the referee as well. And it seems like something that has happened now, asking the pink to be respotted and making sure he is going to be the one supervising the respot of the pink. And it doesn't seem like he's happy with it on the second time. Well, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be happy either. I wouldn't be happy with this one either, because the way that we've respotted the pink on a couple of those previous occasions, he certainly wasn't like this. He certainly wasn't like this. And, well, it's close, but that pink is not going to be heading past the reds. So, Trump seems like he's going to be... Yeah, this one does look... It still looks very close, but it does look like a lot more of what we've seen previously, though. So, on the third attempt, the pink was able to be respotted in exactly the previous position, whether, you know, it is the one for it to be or not. But you have to be consistent there with the referee. And if you felt that that was the spot to be placing the pink on the previous couple of times, then you should certainly stick to it for the remainder of the break now. And now, Trump is finally able to take one of those reds away from that line on the pink. And yeah, he probably should be taking this cue ball down to the blue here. Make sure that he doesn't need to be playing that cat and mouse game and the close margin of a performance. No, he's trying to play for the pink again, which is a bit surprising to me, because he's about to take the red closer to the pink, which will make it a straightforward shot into the corner. But for now, it seemed like he certainly was worth to be taking a step backwards there. But I suppose as he gets the pink and gets himself 65 points of a cushion, and 28 there on the break, so 75 still at the table. So the next red and probably pink combination is going to be taking him over the line here. And look at that, how narrow of a line he was taking that cue ball with, and still giving himself a chance to try and play for the pink. And it's going to be close, but for one last time, the pink is about to disappear into the right corner. Not even applause from the crowd there. They certainly have wanted Robertson to be seeing this one. Bookie's day, well, yeah, a little bit of that point. But to be fair, you know, Robertson clearly doesn't have the run to have any sort of resistance to be showing to Trump. And another break of 50 plus is about to be made there by Trump, because he's now on 42 after making the break of 37 at the starting points of this frame. And listen, the whitewash was always going to be a possibility. I said 6-2 is not going to cut it for Robertson. Now he's going to be dreaming about 6-2 for him to try and make it to the evening session, with still having a decent chance to try and take this one away. For now, the cue ball is about to be headed towards the lower end of the table. And 86 points being here as the advantage for Trump. So let's see what he's going to try and do. And a little double into the middle. It's not going to be too far away, but it's not going to be too close either. The break of 49, not quite a break of 50 plus, but in the end, the only thing that Trump hasn't managed to achieve, apart from that, he's got a comfortable lead that has gone beyond the point of ridiculous. It is now Trump 6, Neil Robertson 0. At 2 more frames there for us to be seeing, but is he going to be 2 more frames with just a single man to be turning up? For now, it does seem like we are seeing a little bit of history there to be made by Trump, but by far his best performance of the season. The problem is, it's probably going to be one of the worst performances of the season as well. And Trump is about to find himself just 4 frames away from making it to the final showdown with either John Higgins or Zhao Xington. And yeah, he doesn't seem like he's going to have that decider to be coming up very shortly. Ouch. Well, it's a very polite way of putting that way, but yeah, ouch certainly for Robertson, scoring 86 points in the previous 6 frames, and you know, 52 of those points to come in a single frame. It certainly just tells you the story of the match for Robertson has been anything but pretty. Thank you very much, by the way, for everyone tuning into the stream. Feel free to like on the stream and subscribe to the channel. We're going to have, well, I'm not even sure if we are going to have the second session, because, I mean, is there going to be a point? if it's going to be 8-0, I honestly don't really see a point of doing a stream for the second session there because, I mean, what's the point of doing that? Because Robertson is not going to be able to come back from being 8-0 down. But right now, he's just about hanging on to it, but he needs to be I've been saying that he needs to be winning those frames ever since, the third frame? I said that he could afford to be losing the second one. Ideally, he doesn't want to be doing that, but... Okay, Neil must eat a lion before tonight. Well, he can eat two, but I feel like we're going to be at that stage where, if he turns up and becomes a prime Stephen Hendry, it's not going to be enough there because he's still going to have a decent form of Watchalong to be against him. So, it's going to be down to just trying to deliver the best that you can, but even the best probably won't stop the world number one here, but he needs to try. But, sometimes when you try and, it's not going to cut it for you. Seems to be the exact story of the match so far. By the way, as I say, thank you for everyone tuning in. Massive legends in the chat. And, yeah, whereas I can't give you a guarantee, especially if this session is going to finish with 8 frames to nil at advantage, that the stream is going to be in the evening. But certainly, feel free to tune into Zhao against John Higgins. It's going to be an absolute crack, and hopefully it'll be slightly closer than what we've seen today after the opening 6 frames. But one thing you mustn't forget about, give full credit to the world number one. Fantastic performance from the ace, and he certainly seems like he's managed to find a royal flush in a couple of those frames, and on the other occasions, 3 of a kind, and a nice little pair of high aces there as well. Seem to have done the work for him, as he now leads Neil Robertson by 6 frames to nil, and about to take another break-off shot. 528 points that he scored in the previous 6 frames. And on the other part of the table, you're going to have Neil Robertson still looking to try and complete that 100 worth of the set. And, have to wait and see what Robertson is going to be doing here. Because he's about to position himself nicely for the red to be taken into the left part of the table here. But, I mean, to be fair, I'm not sure how far away he's going to be able to get with this one because of the relation of the other 13 reds. There's one that's going to be on the left side cushion. There's one that I'm talking about of him actually playing. And then he's got around 13 reds to try and make sure he finds himself passed off and try and make sure that cue ball goes all the way to the top. Seems to have got a nice touch on the reds. And a little bit too much of the power, but it's really good there. In the end, the spin and the cushions have taken all the power away from the cue ball. So, yeah, about as much as he could have done there, Neil. But once again, I mean, for me, the weirdest point about this match is how well Robertson is playing with his safety and how badly he's doing when it comes to having anything to do with scoring points. Long shots, shots under pressure, positional play, pot success, long rest shots, anything like that. Getting yourself out of trouble, anything like this, and he seems to crumble all the time there. But when it comes to safeties, he seems like he's been a great match there for Judd. And, you probably have to argue that even though he's been playing those great safeties, Trump has been responding all the time. Hence why Robertson hasn't been getting too many of those opportunities. But now, Trump is about to be taking this one to a really dangerous zone in terms of 6-0 of a lead does give you loads of opportunities, and he's about to exploit one of those. A plant worth of 3 reds, 2 of them to be looking nowhere near the pocket, 2 of them not to be looking anywhere near the red that he's about to send towards the right corner, and also that cue ball is inevitably going to be stuck in around the 4 reds that he needs to try and avoid. So it's going to be a hell of a shot now for Trump to try. 90 seconds that he's taken to try and think about it now. 3 seconds for execution. And, clearly, if he was thinking about that plan for 90 seconds, then he clearly decided not to be playing that one. But to be fair, you can't blame him because I know it's 6-0, but you shouldn't be giving a chance away to Robertson because, remember, it's 6-0 in a first of 10. And something that you don't need to be doing is to give him those 3 frames away. Just make him work a little bit harder for it. And then if he gets to it in the end, then that's absolutely fine. So then, a long red available here for Robertson. He needs to be taking those away. He's taken 2 for the price of 1. And now, is he going to be lined up for the black? Because 2 reds Does give you 2 points, but you don't get a bonus worth of 70 points for it, which I'll tell you what, Robertson would have been a great fan of. Yeah, the fact that he hasn't taken the black probably suggests that he can't take it at all. And lucky again, because that would have been very close for that black to be heading past the red, along the black cushion, and in relation to the reds, you dream about a position like that. The colours would have not been at a bad place either, with the pink, the blue and the ball colours all to be on their spots. And yeah, the yellow is going to be called there by Robertson. So clearly about to find himself a member of another safety battle. Well, he needed to play it better than that. I'm surprised that he's taking the yellow, to be fair, because he was always going to leave a red available to Chom. And yes, this is going to be a little bit of a risky shot there by Chom to play, but surely it's something that 6 frames of the advantage gets to you. I said he doesn't want to give anything easy away, but when it comes to taking those chances, make sure that he's going to keep the way of the flow of the match, that he's the one getting more chances than Robertson. And because the second that sequence breaks, it's going to be very difficult for him to try and restore that. And look at that. Brilliant shot. A little bit of luck. And once again, a couple of millimeters further to the left there, the black would have been able to be played for Robertson. Now, Trump is about to have a real nice line for that 7-0 of a cushion to be his for the taking. Because, as I said, the reds are in a position that you dream about at night. And yeah, he's only got 12 of those as well, because Robertson eliminated 2 with a single shot that he's played. And you can see long reds, 9 out of 11 there for Judd. I thought you missed a lot more than that, but fair play. 9 out of 11 is pretty much, what's it going to be? 72, 82% of the pot success. Great percentage there for Judd. And especially in the semi-final. When you're struggling, how often does that go? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely, that's even without a point of a doubt. When you're struggling, you never seem to get the luck, because it works both ways, to be fair, because it makes sense for you not to be getting luck because you play fewer of those shots for you to get the luck in. But also, when the other player has got the momentum and he plays like he feels he can't miss, that's where you are more likely to get the more favourable of those kisses, like the one that he got on the reds. You know, he could have easily had that red to be heading towards the right middle, and in the end, he's finished up perfectly on the yellow and had the red at the top end of the table to be taking as well there. So, yeah, absolutely the way that he goes there, which sometimes is the cruel thing about snooker, but there's nothing you can do about it. You can't try and restore that, you know, as mana for you and try and use it as a bit of an energy deployment as you want. He just comes and goes there. You never know. Because sometimes, you know, if it's going to be a miss right now for Judd, then it could always turn in favour of Neil Robertson. But for now, you feel like it's going to have to be turning it right here, right now. Well, just as I say that, you're welcome, Neil Robertson fans. I mean, as much as Trump wasn't lined up perfectly on that blue, I still would have fancied him to be taking that one away into the left corner. And that wasn't the case. So very disappointing now for Trump. Of course, not to be taking this position to go all the way, but taking the blue to the sideway part of the table, the pink still having their limited availability, and well, doesn't want that cue to be perfectly on the side there, Robertson. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not brilliant. He finds himself 13 points behind, which is not going to matter with how few of those reds we've seen left out of the table. You know, pretty much every single one of them, barring maybe the 2, are going to be in a really good place there as well. So I'm about to take another blue away towards the left corner. So what's it going to be with the cue ball, trying to get past those reds? Take the blue in first. And as I said, no, that's not going to make it for you. That was a horrible shot that Robertson has played. He needed to make sure that lineup on the blue was better than that. He couldn't afford to be lined up perfectly on that side cushion because the blue wasn't anywhere near the side cushion, and he creates so much of an unnecessary angle that, you know, the black and those reds were always going to be there to be caught. And this is where you can't blame the luck because, you know, he's probably about to take the red into the middle and he wasn't far away, but in the end he didn't make it. So both of the players not taking probably one of the best positions away that we've seen in the match. And once again, it goes back to Trump having that ability to be sort of making it in there. I'm not sure why they haven't added the 5 points from Neil Robertson there from the blue. Seems like it's going to be getting from bad to worse to him, but ultimately it's now another chance here for Tron to take a red away. He's missed that one. Has he managed to use a little bit of his luck? Arsenal again, and a little bit, I wouldn't say he's compromised Robertson here, because this one is probably easier than the blue that he had to play. Even though the red is further away from the pocket, the angle is more difficult, but at least you don't have to do anything. Just try and drop the cue ball for the black. Well, Robertson, I'm not sure if he's thinking about a safety shot, but it seems like he's about to change his mind and go for the left corner instead. You know, he was about to bring the extension, which was for the shot that I was recommending. He's about to probably turn that one down, go for the red into the corner, which I understand what he's trying to do there, because these type of shots get the cue ball to be in the safe spot, and they actually seem to be pretty nice for the players to be taking as well. But, well, it seems like he doesn't want that cue ball to be in a too safe of a place, and once again, that is going to be on Robertson. He can't be blaming luck for that, because he was nowhere near to be judging the power well, and this is going to leave him to just have to try and get a snooker in behind the brown, and I wouldn't be surprised if he underrolls for the brown as well. And no, that wasn't the case. So at least he gets the snooker in behind the brown here pretty well, in terms of a very level playing field of the axes that Trump has in relation to the left side and the right side cushion as well. But now, after all the mistakes and struggles that he had so far in the frame, he only finds himself, well, he still finds himself ahead there. Not for long, it would seem. Or is he going to have a contact point to this red? He will. But it seems like he caught that one a bit too much onto the side, and the same red should be playable here for Robertson. Into the left corner. Well, we seem to have a look at it, and straight away the answer is no thank you. So, what's it going to be then for Neil? Taking a red into the yellow pocket. Once again, it's going to be risky, but anything's going to be risky now for Neil. This one is going to be absolutely brilliant, and you can see, and you can hear certainly, the way the crowd have gone absolutely mad. Even though it's only 1 point there, but at least it's a lifeline for Robertson to try and hold on to. And 6-1 certainly sounds a lot better than being 6 or 7-0 down. Just ask Man United in 23 there. But if you're going to be taking a brown carefully into the yellow pocket, make sure that cue ball is going to get a nice touch of the pink. That's exactly what he's done once again. So, in relation to those reds, I mean, we've used so many of those that I'm not even sure it's going to be down to. They still haven't, by the way, this could be a massive thing there for WSD, because they still haven't given Robertson points from the blue that he scored. And so now, to me, he finds himself 4 points clear. On their thing, it's still 1 point behind for him, so it could still be a very important factor, because, you know, you'll need less of those points to complete there for him to try and take it all the way. And, well, he's just taken one of those reds to be in the open play. It's a really good shot, that, from Robertson, because ultimately it limits those reds to be in a bad position to just one of those. And now he extends his lead to 10 points. This red shouldn't be too much of a trouble, but keep an eye on the cue ball. It needs to be lined up nicely on those bowl colours. Doesn't want it to run too far. Well, it's not bad, but I'm not going to say it's good either, because he's very close to the green and brown, and he seems like he's going to be very straight in both of them. I'm not sure he can see yellow. Yeah, I tell you what, if he needs to be taking his cue ball down the table without touching the cushion, he needs to have a mighty shot now, and settling for the red to be taken into the right part of the table here. So just carefully take the cue ball to be heading towards the left-hand side of the table. Seems to have played that one pretty well, but still, at the same time, that yellow is, the cue ball I should say, is going to be so close to the side cushion. At the same time, so far away from those reds to be taken into the right corner. Now then try and take the shot with topspin. Make sure the cue ball is going to travel towards the blue again. He doesn't need to be playing shots like that to himself. But for now, it seems like it's worked out really well. And about to take the black or pink away into the right corner or the left middle. Once again, 15 points of the advantage that he has got. So if he takes his black away, that will leave him with 22 points of a difference. And 2 more red to try and take before he reaches that red on the left side rail. So, yeah, I'll tell you what, if it is going to come down to those 5 points, which I'm absolutely adamant they haven't added there to Robertson, he's going to have a little bit of a cause there to be saying that Robert fist bumped this frame. Well, let's say he's had a fist bump in the 4th frame when he's managed to score his first points after a foul shot given away to him by Trump. And it seems like it certainly has been a long time since that was the case. Now about to take a difficult red once again. It doesn't seem like he's going to be in any sort of control of those positional shots. But at least he's able to make them into the pocket. But once again, yeah, he's just struggling to try and make this one work. 18 points on the official Channel 5 there of the broadcast. Well, I'll tell you what, they're not put points on yet. Well, this is what I'm saying there. I'm not going ridiculous, am I? And 5 points are going to be the massive difference here. Because I'd love to see what Robertson is going to be looking at the scoreboard. Because if it's going to be the same, then 18 points of the gap right now. You take the black, that takes you to 25. And the red and the black combination again takes you to 32. So you add 5 points to that. And it could be the difference between having a 32 points of a cushion with 35 at the table and having 37. Well, this is not fair on Robertson, you know. Because even now, he's thinking about trying to take that cue ball on for the red to be taken along the side rail. Well, this is going to be... If this is what I'm thinking about, then this is going to be a huge mistake by them because now he's had to play for this red along the side rail. And if he doesn't make this one in and Trump clears up from here, well, it's going to be a very, very interesting to be hearing comments from him after on social media because it probably won't be the reason why he would have potentially lost out the match, but certainly could make the case out for the frame. And look at that, brilliant response. He doesn't need any sort of controversy, and he just needs to have one more good shot on the blue because that red along the side rail was taken brilliantly well and still about to be lined up for the frame ball on the red, officially there. You know, probably should be lined up for the blue to be a frame ball. So my scoring is now 36 points ahead, but he's played another great shot here. So then, 31 points clear, 35 at the table, with whatever ranking that you want to go with. You're not sure. Yeah, let's see. Wow, well, I'll tell you what, that was so close to missing that red as well. But in the end, at last, it is going to be at least one of those frames to be won by Neil Robertson because now 27 points at the table and about to take the yellow away. It does seem like it's finally going to be a frame win, and you can see there from Robertson entertaining the crowd and certainly giving the huge big up to the crowd as well, acknowledging what he's had to come through in the first session, but at the end of it, it's now going to have at least one of those frames on the board, and you always say in a final, make sure you get a frame on the board, and then, you know, sometimes those frames will click for you, and at least it's not going to be a whitewash. He knows a thing about delivering those. As I mentioned about the Players' Championship last season, but at least he's going to have a break of 50 plus once again out there. And by the way, if you listen to Ben Williams, he's saying the break of 55 right now, which is exactly what we have on the scoreboard. So now it should be updated to 69 points for him to be scoring there. But at the end... Anyway, listen, it's a controversy that you don't need to be talking about massively. It didn't make a difference, but in the end, can Robertson try and make a difference in the 8th frame and try and take this one to be just about staying to be a competitive match there? Cue ball will be kept on the table here by Robertson, and he seems to certainly be enjoying himself now. Try and get this black with a double. It's not going to be close to this one, but in the end, it's a really nice break of 61 points. And Neil Robertson is at last going to be getting himself a frame on the board and a massive few there for him as well. Whatever he has lost, and no matter how many of those frames he has lost, he certainly hasn't lost his sense of humour. And it's great to see there from Neil, still enjoying himself and still entertaining the crowd and his fans to a good extent. So then, is he going to be able to try and make a match out of it? Because he wins the last of those frames, and then he wins the first one of the section back there, and then all of a sudden 6-3. It's not quite as anywhere near as bad as being 6-0 down. Smile, Robbo. Yes, exactly. You're not going to be able to win matches like that when you're going to be all negative about it. And ultimately, just acknowledge that there are going to be more chances for you to try and turn your luck around. Because listen, Trump is going to be kicking himself if Robertson is going to get any closer than what we've seen already, because he could have easily won that one and make it 7-0. He had a brilliant position to be working with as well. And he had a huge slice of luck at the starting points of the frame, where Robertson played that great red and was very unfortunate not to be lined up with the black and having that one to be covered up by the reds. In the end, Trump got his own chance and only able to make it a break of, what was it in the end? 20 points, 16 points at the end, so that was the best that he could manage. And now, the frame number 8, which surely is going to be the last frame of the session, 2.5 hours since the action got underway. 3.5 hours before the action is about to be restarted. And let's see which one of those is going to be, which I had put a bet on now, looking like turn 4, turn 5 Trump can see a way back for it. Yeah, he did call that one, to be fair. He certainly did do that. And yeah, 10-4, 10-5 still seems like a very... I would have gone with the starting point. I would have gone for a comfortable Trump win. Not quite as comfortable as this, but I would have said 10-7. No, probably not 10-7. I would have 10-6, 10-5 there, because I genuinely thought it was going to be a repeat of the UK Championship. And I just couldn't see the form that Robertson was showing against Hawkins to be enough there for him. But I felt the first session was going to be the best chance for him, because if you look at the way that Trump plays in those type of formatted matches, he always seems to play better in the second session in comparison to what he does at the first. So I felt that this was going to be 5-3 in favour of Trump. It's no longer going to be the case. Not sure what the conversation of the referee and Robertson is going to be there, because apparently Robertson has changed the bounce is going to be a little bit of a different, but yeah, they seem to be having a bit of a joke about it, so not sure what the context is going to be, but maybe just suggesting that the break-off shots are going to be different, which may be something to do with the re-rack. And now the final frame of the session, Neil Robertson to break it away and hopefully get himself lined up with a good start to this frame. Trump is going to find himself probably for the first time where, in an unfamiliar losing streak here of just a single frame, but still, 6-0 and 6-2 does make a little bit of a difference. And the best way for Trump to try and take advantage of this now is going to be try and take his time, make sure he doesn't try and rush into things and give another easy chance away to Robertson. Always worry when you're silent. And yes, no, like when you're silent, just trying to listen there, because it doesn't happen too many times, but Robertson just walks away to Ben Williams, and if I hear myself talking, I wouldn't be able to have the conversation to be heard in between them, which you never do anyway. They should have a mic next to their face or something like that, which you do actually have a nice little ref cam in football right now. You obviously can see all the transition and sometimes even the coaches' interactions in Formula 1 and tennis, but I suppose snooker doesn't see those interactions to be happening frequently because, referees are meant to be completely, impartial. And therefore, the conversations like that must be purely on something that the players either are not satisfied with or just asking for the referee to make a certain impact on. So then back to Robertson it goes, and just having a look to see the right-hand side of the table. Seems like he's not going to be able to make too much ground on it, so just trying to send one of those reds away to the right corner. Nearly a double there that he's played to the right corner. And got a good touch on the cue ball, to be fair, as he gives the turn back to Trump. One thing is obvious, Robertson won't be winning this one, especially if Trump gets 7-1. It's true, but one thing is not going to be quite as obvious if he's going to be able to get 2 frames away now, which, will potentially get into the head of Trump. I feel like it's going to be a bit of a long shot there, which, talk about a long shot, he's about to have one into the right corner. He needs to be taking those ones away, and he's going to be able to do it. Now, he needs that cue ball to slow down. He's going to have a contact on the green, but yeah, even though he's managed to win the previous frame, it certainly doesn't seem like he's done anything good to his luck, and still going to have a horrible cannon on that green, so just a shot in behind the green. So a single point that he scores, and 14 more reds for the players to try and make their way through. So what's it going to be here for Judd? Probably one cushion escape is going to be slightly too risky of an attempt there for him to be taking. So 2 cushions of the right side than the left. And he's tried to do 3 cushions there, so trying to get the pack from underneath. And as long as he reaches, which it will, it's going to be a great shot there. And timed really well in terms of the power and also in terms of the line that the cue ball was taken towards. Seems like there is not going to be a touch and ball there. Called by the referee. The like button, folks, and try and get covering. Now, thank you for everyone tuning into the stream. It's been certainly an interesting match there. I wouldn't say it's been the most dramatic encounter, but we've seen a couple of those comebacks from Trump. We've seen finally a frame to be won by Robertson, but also we've seen some great breaks there to be made. A break of 61 there by Neil, 87, 94 and 113, all to be made in the first 3 frames by Trump. And it seems to have gone slightly downhill ever since that point, but when you've got a benchmark like that, you're never going to be able to maintain that pace until the end of the matchup. And if you do, then good luck trying to do that in the final, because when you play your best game in the semis, you very rarely are able to replicate that form. And when you get to the last 2 stage, if you do, if he has but nudges and cannons to put together with being so far behind, there's no way he's going to be able to. He needs luck and the flow of the match to charge to have any hope. True, but at least he needs to be doing those chances and creating those chances for himself there, something that he has done in a couple of previous frames. And, the problem is he was only able to win 1 of those frames so far, and he just played a really bad shot there. 2 options here for Trump to be taking away. The one into the right corner does seem like it's going to be looking more appealing for Trump, and after the long way that he's been taking so far, I feel like this one is going to be missed for whatever reason, but it wasn't, and it was a fantastic shot there by Trump, and still able to take that cue ball past all the reds, past the black, and once again, an absolute deja vu there from what we've seen in the previous frame of the start, because remember, the position was looking a lot better though, and he still wasn't able to make that one to go all the way after missing the blue into the left corner. And now can he try and make it as a 7-1 frames of a cushion, and try and make it about as comfortable as it's going to get for him. So just try and take the cue ball closer to those reds, make sure that the white he's going to be in close proximity to every single one of those. If it's going to be 10-6, then Robertson will start winning most of the next 9 frames. I cannot see that happening with Trump getting close to the finish. Yeah, absolutely. Like, the fact of him winning that frame, as much as it's all fun and games there for him to be saying he's happy, he's doing all the emotions, it's not going to mean anything unless he's going to be able to win 3 frames for every frame that Trump takes. And for now, we're not seeing anything of that in terms of the chances that he's taken. So another way for that to be the case is Trump all of a sudden to become really crap in terms of his playing game. And, we've seen 1 mistake in the previous frame. Doesn't mean that it will be happening for every single one of those frames starting from now on. But also, we're about to end this session here. So it's going to be either 7-1 or 6-2. There's nothing in between. And even 6-2, as much as it is going to be a great comeback from Robertson at the end of it, then it's still not going to mean anything if Trump is going to be able to win the first frame back and make it back to 7-2 there, because 7-2 is equivalent to me of 6-0. Because yes, it's going to be 5 frames advantage terms instead of 6, but you also get yourself 1 frame closer to the finish line. So yeah, Robertson needs to go on a hell of a run there, which is going to have to match the 6-0 of a run that Trump had at the starting point of this match, which probably is the biggest semi-final or final achievement of the season there, because 6 of the opening frames we won. I mean, I know Wakelin had 8 against Bing Yu at the Scottish Open. I know that Weezers had 6 frames against Trump, but that was not at the start, and also it wasn't at the semi-final stage of Nanjing. And you could make a point about Selby doing that against Trump. I'm pretty sure he was in the UK. It may have been at the Champion of Champions, because the lineup was the same. Now, I felt like it was in the Champion of Champions, 5-0 for Selby there, so it wasn't quite 6-0. But now Trump, as I say, he's going to have to find himself in a more difficult of a position than the one that he had in the previous frame. But ultimately, he's still going to have enough of those reds available to try and make some points of the advantage to go in his favour. So that having one more look to be seeing the black about to be taken here to the right corner. Make sure he gets that spin working out and needs to be heading around the back of the pink. He's done that superbly well, and the black is probably going to go onto the pink spot or the green spot here. It's going to go on the pink spot here, which is an interesting thing there for Trump, because I feel like that's going to be a great boost to his chances of trying to stay on the black for as long as he can. Although, just as I say that, ooh, it's a bad shot. You can see it's a bad shot already. He doesn't want that red to be anywhere near to be straight, and it's going to be anything but a shot with an angle on the blue. So, brown here is probably the only way for him to continue the break. It's not going to be too difficult to try and play the positional shot, as much as he, you know, it's one of those shots there with the brown taking into the yellow pocket. It's not going to be too difficult, but it's probably having the positional shot and the pot success to be added one to another is what makes the shot to be slightly out of his comfort zone. Now we're back for Robertson. Well, we'll have to wait and see there. So something that you certainly shouldn't be doing in the semi-final of the 8th frame, especially in the middle of a very important shot there, is taking a photo of Watchalong with a flashing camera, which is exactly the reminder that the referee is going to give to the audience. And, well, this is going to be a bad thing to be doing there to Trump, because he's going to miss that brown by a huge distance, which I'm not sure he was going to be down to that distraction. But, you know, the good news for him is that because of him missing that brown by so much, that cue ball is going to be nowhere near to be seen in relation to the position of the red. So, he's still going to have 22 points of the cushion in relation to 99 points still to be available here. So, Robertson about to take this red carefully into the corner and still playing that cue ball to be further away from the danger zone. Was out of the order. Yeah, he was, but in the end, I feel like it wasn't really going to be a massive difference. As much as it probably will sound harsh, but you know, it was going to be a really tough shot there for Trump to play. And also, you know, those type of shots to me is when you miss it by a little bit. When you miss it by so much, it's clearly that something has gone wrong in the actual technique of the shot. Although I may be wrong in that one as well. Let's see what Trump is going to be able to do, because, you know, last thing that he needs to be doing is to try and, you know, allow that to get in his head. He still finds himself in a brilliant position. He's going to have this quarterfinal to lose, semi-final to lose, I should say. And he's just played a fantastic safety shot, although I'm about to change the word fantastic to good, because I thought the blue is going to be in the way of that red to be taken. In the way, it doesn't seem to be that way. Well, is it going to be the case? No, it's not. I feel like there is going to be a line for Robertson to be taken close to the blue, but it's not the shot that you want to be taking on when 6-1 down. I wouldn't be surprised if there is going to be a slight contact to the blue. There wasn't, and look at that. A millimetre away from a disaster and a catastrophe contact on the blue. And in the end, this does look like a lot more of a form that we were expecting from Robertson to deliver at the starting point of the frame. And of course, after the previous couple of safeties that we've seen, it's going to be a very different picture in terms of those reds. But the problem is, how are you going to be getting on the next red from here? Simple answer is around the globe, which, I mean, simple answer, not really simple execution. The pink and the black both are going to be seeing that cue to be heading away from the lower end of the table with no real clear-cut chance for you to return it, apart from going through the three side cushions. Well, sorry, the right side cushion and the bulk, and then the left side cushions to finish it off with. And even then, you know, you need to be positioned for the left-hand side of the table, which could easily go wrong for you. So it was a good shot there by Robertson. It was a very fine margin of a shot there, but I feel like the longer he takes, he probably has to be taking the blue here. He'll never do it, but the black, then, it is his decision. So what's it going to be? Just trying to take the pace of the cue ball. He's missed that one to me, and he has. Yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't really a shot that you wanted to play there, especially on the back of such a great long shot that you've played. And it is now going to be all the way for the great guys. Good luck. He's the best. Well, whoever is the best, is certainly, at least it's a positive comment there. And Robertson will certainly have to go back to a little bit of positivity there. And now having a look at relation to this red, about to be taken to the left corner here by Trump. So is he going to be up for it, or is he going to try and take the red next to the pink, which will allow him to sort out two issues at the same time? Because he'll manage to free up the pink to be heading into the right corner. But this red is not going to be an easy one. He's taking this one well. Needs that cue ball to be travelling, but doesn't want it to be straight on the green. And anything but straight will do. anything but straight, they said, and it seems like it's going to be absolutely perfectly straight in this one. Once again, we are going to be approaching the zone where Trump can afford to be just taking those reds away from the game, but of course he would have liked to try and finish this session on a high. And, well, if it's not going to be green, it can't be yellow because it doesn't give him any angle. The black is going to be way too risky. So it needs to be green then. But what is the angle situation is going to be looking there? Black, well, this is the thing there. It's going to be way too risky for you to be taking a long shot like that. Well, the cue ball needs to find it, miss the right middle, and he has done. It's a really good shot there by Trump. From the position that he had on that green, it's probably about as good as he could have got for him. I can see what you mean there by black, but I can't really see a straightforward way for that shot from the cue ball to be playing from the black anyway for the red, but also that black could have been missed so easily because of how much of the power you need to be playing that shot with. So it just had too many red flags there. And Trump seems to be hanging on and finally able to find himself in a perfect positional play in relation to the colour, right side of a blue. And now 7-1 is certainly going to be not just Germany against Brazil in the semi-final of the World Cup, but now Trump potentially to have the scoreline lined up by far the biggest win of the season for him in relation to just the one session format when it comes to those first to 10 matches. So then a break of 10 points and carefully studying the position of the red. Look at how well he's managed to get in behind of a red with very little room there for margin for error. And didn't really need to be straight on the blue here though. So this may be the time for you to be taking the black, although the same thing that I've said about it, even though it's not going to be from a long shot now, it's going to be very difficult to try and play that shot without power. If you play that with power, makes that black to be disappearing into the pocket a lot more difficult. So just trying to take that cue ball along and around the table. And once again, when it comes to the cue action, there's not going to be any better to call when you need a shot like that. Brilliant from Trump, and still able to be lined up perfectly in behind the red. This time around, to be taken into the right middle. Looking GG's frame, yes, especially after taking that beautiful blue, he's going to be able to be lined up for the pink, and then you'll only need one more red after that to be lined up with 7-1 of a cushion, and still make it a campaign to forget there in relation to this particular session for Robertson. And yeah, that will leave him with what? Having to win 9 out of 11 frames there. Well, we've seen long pots like that to be made from Trump, but one thing is making it one shot. Is another story trying to keep Trump quiet for 9 out of those 11 frames there. It's been a really good performance from Judd, and he's certainly bringing the best out of himself before the Crucible. Now taking a difficult pink into the right middle as well. So then 51 points of an advantage with a break of 30 here. 51 at the table. This red will mean that Robertson does need 2 snookers and play that one into the right part of the pocket. Now it is going to be game over here, not just in relation to the first session, probably in relation to the whole match in general. And Trump will clearly just try and disrupt those 2 reds away from each other. He's played that shot really well and still looking for another break of 50 plus there for it to be probably something like 7th in the match. Let's have a look quickly as he takes another great red after splitting the 2 away from each other. Robertson already looking for a way out of the arena and hoping that when he does come back, he's going to be able to come back with a better performance than this. 4 50 plus breaks for now. He's about to make it number 5 though. Surely if he's going to be able to spot the black and the red combination for one more time. So still, it feels like he's done that in the first 3 frames of breaks 87, 94 and 113. And then it felt like, you know, we were going to see those reign until the end of the match. But still, the fact that he scored 620 points in relation to 163 there from Neil Robertson is a brilliant campaign. And look at that shot from the black around the globe there, and a huge strike from the cue ball to be travelling and lining up perfectly on the yellow at the end point of it as well. Big lead now, hard to see way back, and even when he gets a miscue, he's still going to be able to get that green in. He probably is going to have a very difficult line of taking the brown, which will stay at the table, but in the end, It's the only thing that is going to remain at the table after the first session, and a brilliant performance there by Watchalong that after all that will still take a huge lead ahead of Neil Robertson, and after how much it meant to be defeating Shaun Murphy in the decider and a little fist bump from the world number one the day before yesterday, now it seems like the semi-final campaign is going to be a touch more comfortable. And well, a quick overview, where do you start? In the first frame, no chance for Robertson and a fantastic break for Watchalong to get himself on the score sheet. Break of 87-0. Very rarely you see a stat as positive as that, but then you have to give him even more credit for the second and third frames. Yes, there was a minor misjudgment from a snooker from Robertson, which I felt like he could have done better on, but still, for him to be taking this trade nicely into the middle, get himself lined up with 94 points of a break, a little bit careless when it comes to the century break, could have easily played for the pink instead of the yellow, and ended up missing the yellow for 96 points of a break. But in the end, 1 century in the third frame was still a fantastic way for him to make it by far the best break of the match. And with how difficult the position was for him, it was a break certainly to be taken away there from Trump. 4th frame was the first chance for Robertson to try and get himself on the score sheet. Had the first chance to be scoring some points, only managed 11 as his highest break of the frame, and then came back after the intermission with a break of 52 points. Still wasn't enough to be winning the 5th or 6th, the frame away. And finally, the break of 61 points allowed him to be taking the 7th frame away from Trump. Didn't really happen same time in the 8th frame though, and now it's Trump that has got a monumental lead of 7 frames to 1. Probably the third most dominant sessions that we've seen there, because I'm pretty sure Williams had a 7-1 of a win against Murphy in the first round of the Xi'an Grand Prix final. Then I'm not sure, it would have not have been as comfortable for Wakelin against Binyu there, because as much as he managed to win the second session 3-0 there and the first one 6-2, so it would have just been accumulation of both of them. So yeah, probably second most dominant win there so far in the season, but of course for it to be in a semi-final and against the world number 3 there just makes it taste a little bit better there. We'll have to wait and see what happens in the second session, but feel free to tune in to more matches of the action. The Tour Championship is about to get to its peak, with Xiao Xingtong and John Higgins featuring tomorrow, consisting of 2 sessions as well, and hopefully that match will be slightly closer than being 7-1 after the first session, but still, full credit to Trump, and hopefully Robertson will have loads more for him to show before ending this Tour Championship campaign and moving on towards playing a qualifier and a potential of Chris Wakelin in the second round of the Crucible. Once again, thank you for everyone tuned in, and yeah, stay tuned in for even more matches. To Championship is about to get real tasty. Trump is looking good, but is he going to be able to stop the formidable force of Higgins or Xingtong? Wait and see. Thanks for watching, stay tuned in, and thanks again.